Good evening, community members. We are opening our regular board meeting on March 12th, 2024, and it's 5:24. To get things started, I would like to call the following high school students for the flag salute, mission, vision, and community pledge. Tyler Jansen and Nayoung Kim. Here they come. Okay, lead us in the flag salute first. Yep, start with the flag. Please rise.
Place your right hand over your
Heart.
and begin.
I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay. And now our mission, which I think you guys either have it in your hands or you can read it right here.
Our mission is educational excellence, and our vision is our students will realize their full potential to thrive with integrity in a complex, changing world.
Okay. Thank you so much. May I have, the community pledge.
The BHUSD community acknowledges that in order to achieve educational excellence, we must act with integrity and respect for each other and our learning environment. Therefore, I pledge to model civil behavior and respect in all communications and in public while maintaining a culture of honesty, listen and acknowledge differences of opinion, do my part to protect an inclusive culture in which we honor the relationship between all school community members and honor our learning environment, including how we take care of our schools and personal property. By holding ourselves and each other accountable to this pledge at all times, we will promote an environment of educational excellence that will allow our entire BHUSD community to thrive.
Thank you very much. With that, can I get an approval for the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Thank you. A motion made by Mr. Margot, seconded by Ms. Marcus. Call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Dr. Breggy, was there any report of closed session?
Thank you, Dr. Stern. We had 2 items in closed session to be reported out. The board has voted 4-0 in approval of OAH case 2473577 with 1 board member absent. And the board has voted 4-0 in the approval of Keenan claim number 604999 and Central District case number 222-00924 GWPLA with 1 board member absent. And that is it.
Okay, thank you very much. With that, I call Mr. Stewart, if you would like to introduce us to the Teacher Student Spotlight.
Absolutely. It is my great pleasure. Thank you very much, Board of Education, for having us here tonight. And I'm very thrilled to introduce
Is it on?
Test. I'm very pleased to introduce to all of you one of our amazing teachers in our science department. She teaches AP Chemistry, chemistry, AP Environmental Science, and has taught a variety of other subjects throughout her tenure here. She is a very, very important member of our team, and she is here tonight to introduce one of the clubs that she is a sponsor for, which is our Science Olympiad. And then she's going to introduce the students. They're going to let you guys know a little bit more about what it is that they do. So without any further ado, I would love to introduce Miss Emily Smith.
Hi, everybody. All right. So I'm here to talk about Science Olympiad, which is an amazing, totally amazing club. I love these kids. These kids are so dedicated. This is, okay, at high school, they're so busy. They have all these classes, they're trying to get into college, they're in sports, they're in music, they're in everything, and they do this too. Because Science Olympiad is not just, hey, you learned all this stuff in your class, now go do it. No, it's way beyond that. It's like, yeah, that's just the tip of the iceberg here. Let's dive into some real science. So it's really fun and really exciting. And they find the time to do this. Let me just tell, I was so proud of this. Okay, so the day before our competition this year, right, was not a school day. You want to come in here and get that up? Not a school day, yeah? Well, guess what? My students came in on this not a school day, and they were here from like 3 o'clock till 9 o'clock on not a school day because, yeah, we're competing. And we were happy with our results this year, so I'm going to tell you all about that. Now, I'm thinking that I'm supposed to have a little Zoom competition here. All right. Okay, in a minute, I think this is going to share to you. We have a little slideshow presentation for y'all coming up. But in the meantime, I'm going to tell you about my captains. My captains this year are Tyler Jansen and Nayoung Kim, the two young ladies who just opened the meeting for us. And they are fabulous. They've done so much for Science Olympiad this year. We've really expanded what we're doing, and they're going to tell you about what we're doing after the event and how we're getting ready for next year. So it's really exciting to work with these kids. I'm so thrilled that I get to. I've been doing this for like longer than they've been alive probably, but it's been a really exciting year for us. So here we go. There it is, Science Olympiad. How cool are we? Okay, so what is it actually? So Science Olympiad is a STEM competition. It has multiple events every year, and we're going to learn a little bit more about that. This is Tyler and Jansen, and we got some other team members there. Okay, so there you go, ladies. All right, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Nayoung, and I'm one of the team captains for Science Olympiad. I'll be introducing what we do in Science Olympiad. We have these things called events, which is just science topics that each member gets a team to work on for the rest of the year. So we have 3 different types of events, build, lab, and study events. So the build events involve like building a device. For example, this year I worked on air trajectory with my partner, which involved building a launcher that operates through air compression. So that was pretty cool. And lab events, which my great partner Tyler was also part of, it's a type of competition that involves both a written test and a hands-on lab portion. So it can get very engaging, and yeah, it can get very engaging. The study events is this 3rd type of Science Olympiad events, and these events require intense research about the topic as it goes above and beyond the typical high school level science class. So we do have school related subjects, but we also have subjects that are very niche and specific. So for example, we do have your classical ecology that relates to Miss Smith's AP Environmental Science class, but there are also events like forestry, which involve North American trees and their characteristics and habitats and so on. There are also astronomy, which was what me and my partner were involved in this year, and this discussed like star and galaxy formations as well as certain calculations involved in that. So Science Olympiad in general offers a wide range of subjects that can fit everyone's interests, and it has been a great opportunity for our team to explore different fields of science, and I'm so grateful to have been part of it during my high school career. And these are some pictures of us building our devices and working on our notes for research.
So this is our placing for the competition that we just did on February 17th. So we got 1st place in disease detectives, 2nd in anatomy and physiology, 5th in experimental design, and 6th in tower. And Nayoung and I actually competed in experimental design together. And I thought that it was a pretty interesting event. You guys might want to hear a little bit about it. It's basically where you're given a bunch of different items, and you have to conduct an impromptu experiment and then answer questions about it. So it's kind of like testing your like thinking on the spot and stuff like that. So I thought that it was a pretty interesting experiment. But there were a lot of things that allowed us to do better than we had this year. And I think one of the main things was our increased membership. So usually a team consists of 15 people, but this year we actually had enough people to create 2 teams. And I think this definitely helped our performance because we were able to have like our strongest competitors in one team where they had the greatest chance for placing and winning. So that was definitely good. But next year, of course, we want to do even better. So usually after competitions, we stop our meetings and we just resume the next school year. But this year, we're actually continuing our meetings after our competition. We've been doing this mentorship kind of program where we have the older students, like the seniors, talking to younger students and kind of telling them about the events that they've competed in, as well as like any tips they have for the club. And hopefully this will improve our performance even more for next year. And we'll do even better. So yeah, thank you. Oh, this is an image of the mentorship.
Thank you, ladies. They are the best. These girls are fabulous. So just a couple of things to just kind of tie this all together. Back in 2016, we won 5th place in regionals. Not, we got medals, but beyond medals, we won regionals, and we got to go to state. And the goal is to do that next year. And when we do that next year, it's going to be these 2. Because they've set us up in a really great place to do that. I mean, like I said, I've been doing this like forever, really, but we've never had 2 teams, and so it's like we have this momentum going. I think that's fabulous. And just to consider, these girls, when did they start this? They started this their freshman year. That was during the pandemic, people. How did we do this? Yeah, this was all virtual. It was online. Our team kept competing. We actually won 3rd place in cybersecurity that year. It was like everything's virtual and the team's still getting together and meeting in like Zoom space and all, like, okay, this is going to Zoom, right? Just like that. These kids are fantastic. They're phenomenal. We can totally go back to state and do it again. So that is going to be great. And just remember them when we do that. And my hope is, as we're building our membership, which, again, I'm just down to these girls. They're fabulous, right? If we continue to build, maybe we can make a class out of it. That'd be cool. So, because it is fun. I mean, here, let me just give you an example. Fermi questions. I was like, oh yeah, this is all from, things you've heard of ecology, right? Because yeah, I teach that, yeah? What are Fermi questions? Anybody? Yeah? Oh, you don't know. It's like this. Okay, how many heartbeats are there in an average person's lifetime? No calculators. Good luck. Yeah? It's fun. It's like you got to estimate. You got to use your brain. You got to kind of get out there, break out of the box, do something fun. Science Olympiad is so cool, and thank you for supporting us. Thank you. And there you go.
Well, thank you
sorry.
very much. Before you guys sit down, might have a few questions or comments. We can start with Sophia.
So thank you so much for coming out, first of all, tonight. I really appreciate the presentation. It was so cool. I know Science Olympiad has a rep around school, I think, for being very hard and time-consuming and requiring a lot of hard work and dedication. So all of this is the direct result of that, and it's super cool and admirable that you guys did that. I wanted to ask what your favorite event was this past competition season.
My favorite event was definitely chemistry lab. I think that's...
Okay, I didn't pay her to say that, but I teach chemistry. She was in my honors chem class.
Yes. But yeah, I really like chemistry, so that was fun for me.
My favorite event was experimental design, which is what Tyler also explained a couple of minutes ago. And I think it was more interesting. I took this event last year, but it made it more interesting this year because it related to my AP Stats class, which I'm in right now. So I got a lot of help from Mr. Yu and my peers for this event.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much.
No, wonderful. Irony is not the right word, but I guess the privilege and pleasure of it being March being Women's History Month, and here we are. I think maybe one of the first times since I've been on the board that you all ladies are up here, and I think that's terrific, leading the charge on this. It's just that into science is a wonderful example of the progress we're all making. So thank you.
Thanks so much for joining us. I was just curious to know how many hours a week would you say you and your team members are putting into Science Olympiad, and when is that taking place for the most part? Is it lunch and after school and weekends? I'm just curious to know, it seems like to prepare it would be very time consuming. I'm just curious to know, when is that happening for you?
So we've been having meetings around twice a week, and so our after school meeting is from like 3:30 to 5:30 on Mondays. So, and like when it's near the competition, I think Miss Smith, I've been very grateful for her time commitment. She let us use her room for like 5 days a week almost, and that has been very helpful for us to prepare for the competition.
Thank you. A lot of time.
Michelle?
You must have been reading my notes because I said the same, and I wrote down the time that you give to this, and the dedication is amazing, and the love that you show to it. I just am so impressed. And if you were to say one things that helps you in being in this competition, what would you say was an outcome for you of being in this competition? A hard question, maybe I put you on the spot. What comes out of it for you guys?
Well, I think that this club definitely helps me with teamwork, because you really have to work with your partner. Usually it's like you split up if it's a study event, for instance, you would split up the test, so like your partner does half and you do the other half. And I think like being able to work with people, like new people that you don't know, this club definitely helped me to do that better, and I think it'll help me like in college and throughout my life.
I thank you for that comment. It's very interesting. Yes, good. Thank you. And any other, your friend, your teammate?
Well, teamwork is a very big part of Science Olympiad. I learned a lot about cooperation, and since I'm a team captain, I would say I learned a lot about leadership and how to like work with people and manage their like each individual tasks for all the team members, as well as like some of the managerial stuff for the club.
Really proud of you, and thank you so much. And I hope that you get into wherever you want to go, and that this experience has helped you immensely, and I know it will. And thank you for coming and sharing with us today. Oh, one more question. And you said that you had places, first, the fourth, the fifth, and the sixth. Are any of you going on to the regionals, or was this the regionals or the state? Are any of us going on?
Okay, regionals are, you go to regionals, the top 6 placing teams overall. So there are events, there are study events, right? And we placed in particular events, but there are many events, and they look at the overall, all of the schools that compete. Like when there were like 40 schools that competed there, right? And the top 6 go to state, right?
Okay.
So when I said we were 5th and we went to state, it was like, yes, right?
Well, I'm sure that with your leadership, you're going to get there. And thank you again for everything you do.
Oh, it's down to the kids. They're great.
A question I have is, and it's sort of a nerdy question, but it's interesting to me. How did math, the use of math, come into play with your projects, if at all? Well, I assume it did, but either of you or both of you want to comment?
So one great example of math being applied to one of the Science Olympiad events was astronomy, and for this, I had to use like certain calculus formulas to calculate the distance between each like celestial entity and the other, the magnitude, which is the brightness of the star. I had also had to calculate that, and like the orbital periods, and so on.
And that required calculus. Like it wasn't just arithmetic. Yes. It was like you know,
Yes, it
based
was-
on your years of,
Yeah.
of applied math. Okay,
Yeah, it was
great. Thank
pretty
you.
tough. Yeah.
In grade level, are you got kids in 9th, 10th, and 11th, 12th, so we're building in the program, right?
All right. Well, thank you very much. A big round of applause. With that, we are moving into public comment. We do have Dr. Jane Taviev, Asher Technology.
Yes.
Okay.
It's a different week, but the topic is the same.
Okay, and you have 3 minutes. I apologize if and when we stop you.
Yes,
Okay.
I understand. I understand. You
Thank
just
you.
get to hear me in succession with little 3-minute sound bites, but the topic is the same. Coincidentally, right after I spoke just a couple weeks ago about the dangers of TikTok, how we don't want to be exposing our kids to TikTok, YouTube. One of the 6th grade teachers gave an extra credit assignment for the children to make an extra credit video on TikTok or YouTube. So I think this was just a perfect opportunity to talk about this again. This really just underscores, I like to quote Harry Truman, the buck stops here. So I view we are in this room is the upper echelon of our education system. And so whatever is happening with the teachers or the students, I feel that the people in this room are ultimately responsible. And so this underscores, again, what I said last time. If we are going to use technology, we need to look at the modern lay literature and neuroscience literature about the use of technology and then implement instruction for our teachers so that they are all aware that TikTok is not legal under the age of 13 and no 6th graders are 13 years of age. We want to make sure even very basic things like what's come out even in the lay literature in the last couple of years and in PubMed prior to that is that we want to decrease oversharing of our own children on the internet, like Instagram and social media accounts, and yet our schools have Instagram and social media accounts, and we are posting pictures of our children on these accounts, and we're making it harder for parents to opt out of that. So now that we have already been hit and blindsided, I would say, by this AI situation, where a solution was suggested that do not post pictures of your children on social media so that others cannot take those pictures and use them for these AI images, we are, as a school district, posting pictures of our children on open social media accounts. And now that we know what is possible through AI, we really need to pull back on that. I've also been hearing that there is sort of an undercurrent in the school district about that it's difficult to pull back from the technology. There are murmurs that it's related to the funding. My suggestion, so to summarize my suggestion, besides having someone analyze our use of technology, teach it from a top-down approach, make sure that everything that we're doing is safe and in line with, it's not all safe or in line with modern understanding of the use of technology, but also to make public the finances behind the technology structure in our school district to understand, is there something in the funding that is making it difficult to pull back from this? Is there something that is propelling this forward that has to do with money? Because we are certainly through our taxes a well-funded school district, and we should really be at the top, at the forefront of this rather than lagging.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, can I get a motion for the approval of the consent calendar minus item 14A?
I will move for the motion to approve the consent calendar minus 14A.
No, that's professional.
No, 14A was
Of El Rodeo fencing.
that would have been removed when we approved the agenda.
Okay, we can certainly
We'll just table
talk
it.
about
We
that.
can table the
And,
discussion
yeah,
when we get
it's
there.
it's discussion and not a decision anyway.
Is that on the agenda for the consent?
No.
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 Okay.
So was there
It's on
anything else
the,
from consent?
Anything else pulled from consent? No. Okay. So can I
I'll
have a
make,
motion?
I'll
I'll make a motion to approve the consent calendar.
I'll second it.
Okay. Motion made by Mr. Margot and seconded by Rochelle. Ms. Marcus, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, with that, brings us to reports. Student board member report.
Okay. Starting out, we are covering the first couple weeks of March here, so yeah, let's get into it. Thank you all. First thing I wanted to start off with on a high note. Recently, one of our students at the high school, Braden Pricesand, competed in the English-speaking union's Shakespeare competition and won regionals and is going on to nationals. And this is just such an exciting thing that I wanted to highlight at the forefront. Because to me, this is educational excellence. This is a great showing, I think, of our performing arts program. Braden has been in the program since her freshman year at the high school and is just such a good representation of the program and the school and what our students can achieve when they apply themselves and really put the pedal to the metal. So this is just so exciting, and wanted to start off with this amazing accomplishment. In a similar vein, these past couple weeks, we've had a lot happening in performing arts. Last week on Wednesday, we had our instrumental music program's performance of Sakura Sounds, their annual concert, which included pieces from the Chamber Orchestra, Symphonic Band, and Beverly's Big Band. This was such an amazing concert. I'm sure everyone who got the opportunity to go and see it was just blown away. The incorporation of the Japanese music at a student level, I think, again, is so impressive and reflects really amazingly on our district. And so this is, again, another point of, I think, pride in our students and in our programs. Next, I wanted to highlight a couple things happening at the middle school because their ASB program specifically has been really up and running in some major ways recently, and I thought it was so cool. In contact with them and with Coach Park, I've heard about all the sort of pre-high school level things that they've been starting to work on. Like they've been prepping pep rallies, they've been creating flyers and getting involved in putting on events. Like just in this past month, they put on a major after-school Valentine's Day event, which required out of the classroom time and preparation and organization, creating flyers, advertising materials, getting their feet in the water with branding and how all of that works in the district, which is a major aspect, I think, of governance and ASB that they'll definitely have more experience with if they continue ASB at the high school. And most recently, they helped in creating the pep rally in the past month featuring our boys basketball team at the middle school, because apparently they made playoffs and are playing this week, which is so exciting. So I wanted to highlight that because, again, the middle school has such amazing things going on and is setting up our students, I think, so well to continue their success at the high school. And then lastly here, we have a big slew of events coming up at the high school. In order here, this Thursday we have our biannual spring blood drive where students, teachers, and community members all come into the high school on the day to donate blood. This is a great event that we do in partnership with the UCLA Blood Bank. So cool, very exciting. And then next up tomorrow, we have Career Day, which sort of right off the heels of SAT Day and Senior College Preparedness Day, I think is going to be a really exciting event, continuing the sort of preparedness aspect of our educational curriculum. Students, as you can see here, will be able to hear from over 100 speakers from 40 fields, which is so cool. They get to tailor their content programs, include like from 3 speakers, I believe, to their interests, which is so cool. And then for the other grade levels, we will be having senior brunch, and it's just such an amazing opportunity, again, to get community influences in, combining that with district involvement in just a really great event. And then lastly on the end here, because it's another sort of cross-district event, we have our high school's talent show coming up, March 18th, again at the BVMS auditorium. This is probably one of the funnest events that we have here every year. In great partnership with the middle school, it is an amazing opportunity to show off the insane range of hobbies and talents that we foster in our students. So that is very, very exciting. And that about concludes things. Thank you very much.
Wonderful, thank you. Commentary? Okay. All right, thank you. I want to say I'm happy to see that there's a blood drive. Oh, Ms. Marcus would like to say.
I just want to thank you for the great update on everything and reminding me of some of the things that I've got coming up over before I had probably lost track of them, and I saw two that I really want to get in. Even tomorrow, the career day, and then I'd love to see that talent show. I haven't seen it before. This will be my first time, so I'm really looking forward to that. So thank you for the reminder. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely, thank you.
Yeah, I was just saying, I'm glad there's a blood drive. There's a lot of people, for a variety of reasons, have loved ones or they themselves need donations. So I think that's great.
I would like to just say thank you, Sophia, for focusing on the middle school and talking about the successes that are happening there. There are so many things that are happening that are matriculating up into our high school, and I just really appreciate you hitting home on that in a very authentic way.
Okay, and with that, we're going to move into Dr. Breggy's superintendent report.
Great. Good evening, everyone. So just take a second to switch over. So as Mr. Margot mentioned, this is National Women's History Month, and so we are in our full celebration and recognizing our strong women in our community and in our school community. We did have an opportunity at the AXA level. You've heard us talk a lot about AXA, and this is an opportunity where we get to have a professional opportunity and experience to learn from each other, and AXA puts on a very nice event, Women's Leadership Breakfast, and so we had some people in our cabinet that was able to attend that event like we do every year. It seems to grow every year, and I certainly appreciate our representation as Region 14. As you know, we've publicly put out and shared that Ramadan begins, and so that is a holy month that begins on the 9th month in the Islamic lunar calendar. Just one of the pillars is about fasting, and it's truly a month of worship and service and gatherings and just spiritual development. And so we recognize our families in our community. One thing I would want to touch upon, I talked about this before in some of the reports that we're doing, that we've taken on some additional training as administrators. We also have some training with our teachers, and the subject area is anti-Semitism. And I really appreciate our administrative staff for jumping right into some training. We're fortunate to have a presenter come out from New York, Jenny Dementiva. She's from the Israeli American Council, and she had 2 days of presentation for our administrative staff. And I want to point out just a couple of figures here because I think it's really relevant to what we're doing. And if you look to see some of the higher percentages here, the question that was asked was, as a Jewish student, what would help you feel more confident in confronting anti-Semitism at school? Please select all that apply. Keep in mind that this was training for administrators, so this was really important for us to be able to look at this information, share this information, talk about this information. But what really jumped out at many of us is that you can see at nearly 70% that what was important in what students, how they would feel more confident in confronting anti-Semitism is that having non-Jewish students learn more about anti-Semitism, and then knowing that your school administration and your teachers understand anti-Semitism. And I think that that's really indicative of what we're doing here, is that we're trying to provide not just training, but information and education to all of our staff. And so that was a successful training, very spirited conversations that were reflective of what's happening in our school district. So we're very thankful to Jenny and also Sagali Sabag for helping us find Jenny and bring her to our school district. And this continues into our PD Day for April, where we're going to be having some additional training then for our teaching staff. And I just wanted to share with you, this was just some information that is important for us to keep close to us when we make decisions. And I'll just say that one area that I'll report on a little bit later in the month or even next month is just the reporting of anti-Semitism. There was a lot of discussion about how that's done, when that's done, why would that be done, what would constitute a concern or a report. And so that's what we're going to be working on as we continue. I'm just really proud of our staff that are asking really good questions and have this this continuous need to get more information and seek more information. Just a couple of events, and I think we did pretty well as far as not duplicating a lot of the events in Sophia's report. We talked about Black History Month last month in February, and so this is something that happened right after our last meeting, that we had a Walk of Fame, which is really a star-studded event. We had the First Lady of Motown, Claudette Robinson, actually attend and be there. And you can see there's recognition of a star-studded group of African Americans that was a great opportunity. There was actual red carpet there, and it was a really great, effective presentation. And I'm thankful to some board members that were able to attend, as well as commissioners and city council members that were able to attend. Thank you very much for making time. We have our elementary science fair coming, and as you know, we've had our secondary. Now we're moving. It's scary how quickly the year is going by. We're always looking for judges. If you have not taken this opportunity and experience, it is so much fun. The elementary level in particular is absolutely adorable, and if these kids will just shock you at the type of knowledge that they have and the excitement and the passion. And a lot of that is due to our teachers who really are setting that spark for our students. But we do need judges. It's on April 16th. So please, you can look on our website. But here's some information. If you have that time, if you've got an hour and a half, couple hours, it's well worth it. We'd love to have you. BVMS, as well as the high school, actually did Midsummer's Night's Dream. This was a really great experience at the middle school level. The level, the quality level of Shakespeare in our middle school would just blow you away. And while this was a little bit different of a version, this was kind of more of a comical version coming from a student's perspective about how worried she is about memorizing Shakespeare. It was a real fun kind of comic play on Midsummer's Night's Dream, but it was really easy to understand. And we just marveled in the capability of our students at such a high level to be able to have this information, share this information, act this information, the articulation of this information. It was really, really impressive. So if you were able to see that, great. I know that they made a recording of this. It's definitely worth watching. We had a very exciting visit from Dr. Deborah Duardo, who is the Laco County Superintendent, who made her way to visit BHUSD. And so we had a great opportunity. We had about 90 minutes to take Dr. Duardo around the high school. So thankful to Mr. Stewart and cabinet that we were able to accompany her. There were too many things. Like we ran out of time. I mean, there were just so many programs that we wanted to show, everything from CTE to Norman Aid Center. We just culinary. I mean, it was just a great opportunity, and she was very happy to see the programs that we have. We have a special education class where students actually make and sell coffee, and it was a very community feel. And Dr. Duardo felt very at home talking with our students, talking with staff, and asking questions. And it went by really quick, but she was really impressed and sent a really nice thank you note for the amount of time that we took. We had ended that visit with Dr. Duardo in our command center, And that was quite a long-lasting memory for her to take back with her. And she followed up with me the next day on how impressed she was, and she could not get over the command center and the level of security that we have in our school district. Tomorrow night, coming up, our Literacy Family Night, which will be held at Hawthorne, and it's for both elementary schools. So if you can make it out, this is another fun evening with literacy. There's been several nights. I have another slide coming up where I know some board members were able to attend. But this is a fun way for kids and families to participate, and there's going to be some guest celebrity readers tomorrow, so catch that if you can. Mr. Seaman has talked a lot about the AVID program, and if you get some time and you're not really sure the outcomes and the value of such a program, that this is something worth looking up and studying and learning more about. This is a program that changes lives. This is a very, very robust program. It's a program that's been vetted out for decades, and it has proven results. And what I really love about Mr. Seaman and his team is that he's not relying on what he did in his former district or what I did in my former district or other cabinet members who had the AVID program in their district. It was, and I love this approach, it was, let's go see what our surrounding school districts are doing with AVID program instead of just telling them what's been done. And so visiting is probably one of the best ways for people to get on board, to ask questions, to explore, and really take the opportunity. And the best part about it is talking to the staff that's running the program, because you can ask them anything. You can have the dialogue. What's working, what's not working, what are some of the challenges? Instead of bringing a program that many of us have experience in, it was a really authentic way to start that exploration so that it's not the administration trying to convince or persuade. It's that they're able to see what happens in the program, the results with the students, with the staff. And it's just a real organic way to start a program. And so I know that there were a couple schools that were visited, and I know that there's more planned in the future, but I love that approach, Mr. Seaman. So thank you for doing that. Critical conversation. Dr. Stern has had some ideas and thoughts about when we are talking in our strategic plan, we always sometimes forget the why. And I think that we do that really well as educators. But Dr. Stern brought up another viewpoint, and that is, the kind of the why from a parent's perspective. Like, why is this so important? Why is the data important to me? Why should my student do their very best on a standardized exam? And so it was a really nice collaboration, I know, between Dr. Stern, Mr. Seaman, and Ms. Starkins was involved to really start using kind of plain language so that people could understood, like, why is this so important? Why is this data important? And I think this was a really nice turning point for us, because we're starting to use more data to look at our instruction and help guide instruction and influence the instruction that's happening at the teacher level. And I think that it was kind of a missing area, because as a school district, that's a missing conversation about why it's so important for our parents to help support what we're doing in the classroom so that they can also get behind us and make sure that, also things like getting a good night's sleep, a good breakfast in the morning, but also just that encouragement to go and try and do the very best that you can, and if people had a better understanding about that this is a reflection of our school district, and to take this seriously, and that's where you have to change the culture a little bit. And so I really appreciate that added input for us, because it was kind of a missing piece, and this is a 360. We need everybody on board, but most importantly is that people need to know why. Why are we doing these things? We're not doing them just to do them. There's a lot of reasons behind giving tests like this, and it isn't just about scores. And so we love that. So thank you for that information. Lots of things happening. We did a very comprehensive report a couple of board meetings ago about the opening of El Rodeo, and I'm going to take every opportunity I can for the rest of the school year to keep talking and promoting that, because we meet weekly, and we're really excited about where we're going. I love that it's not just moving forward. It's also about looking and recognizing and appreciating and valuing Hawthorne. And that's a really important thing to do as a school community. And the people that are working there now, students that have gone through Hawthorne, former students that have gone through Hawthorne, neighbors that have gone, and I really love that we're giving some really appropriate time so that we can have this time to appreciate, say goodbye as we move on, although we're obviously keeping Hawthorne, but just an opportunity to, not just keep moving forward. There are great memories, great teaching, great families, great programs. There's just so many incredible things about Hawthorne, and this is an opportunity for people to gather together, share those stories, celebrate, and really come together. Another literacy night for bedtime stories. I know some board members were able to attend this, but this just shows this increasing awareness for literacy, and different from just the teacher reading. It's guest celebrity authors, and I'm really glad that more of our schools are having authors that are coming in, and just different ways to celebrate and get excited about reading. Back to just the opening and the ribbon cutting ceremony for El Rodeo. Here's some pictures here that we've put out, and hopefully you've been able to see how incredible this field is, to the academic spaces, the natural light that's happening in our classrooms. Just some really great space, and we're going to do this in a big way. And if you've seen this information, great. We're going to keep pushing this out because we want as many people as we can to see this information, to also celebrate with us. So we've been very transparent about some of the tours that we're having. Many of them will be public, and we will have information for people to sign up. But we really are going to have a busy summer. We know that. We've already prepped for that because we want as many new families coming in. We want people that that had kids that went to El Rodeo to come back and look, because everybody's excited, and we're doing a lot just with neighbors in the area too. The neighbors have had 5 years off of the students in traffic, and so we're back. And so I want to thank Ms. Starkins for a really concerted effort to make sure that neighbors are really part of what's happening here, and they're invited so that they can see what's happening, not only in the communications, but come on in and see the school. And this is a great way for music productions that we're getting people in the community to be able to come into our schools, and that they're welcome in our schools. And you can't do that unless you reach out and really take that time to invite them. If you just post stuff, that's a hit or miss if somebody's going to come in. But these are really honest and warm welcome to the neighborhood to come in and check out the school. Also, just another date that, again, we're looking at this from all sides. And this is a special opportunity, much like with Hawthorne. If we have our former El Rodeo staff, that we're going to do a tour for those employees. And this is just, again, another time for people to gather together. There are just decades and decades of incredible memories that have happened at El Rodeo, and this is going to be an opportunity for people to share those stories, tour the building. These are going to be long tours, I have a feeling, but it's a really great opportunity, and I think just a really nice way to recognize our staff that for some of them they've spent so much time in our schools and teaching, that they get a little special attention, as they should. We talked about excellence, and I love that Sophia had that in her presentation about this is what we do with this is excellence, and I love hearing you say that. And that really that's all titles, that's all job responsibilities. It's everyone in our school district that excels. We had an opportunity to recognize our crossing guards, a very important position as far as safety and really getting to know and protect our students. And so, again, people being recognized here for excellence in our school district. Kind of going back to the testing, just another great day, and I want to thank the Board of Education for all of your support when it comes to this day of testing. Each year gets better, and it gets more students involved, and so we're at 74% of the students that were seated for the SAT. That's up 10% from the last year, and it just becomes a culture of what we're doing here, as well as our 9th grade students had college and career paths. 10th grade had testing skills with the PSAT, and 11th grade was tackling obviously the SAT, and 12th grade had some time to contact colleges, apply for scholarships, financial aid, and this was just something that has really grown over time. And so thank you to the BHHS administration, Mr. Seaman. This has become really part of our culture now. And the information that we get from this day is incredibly important. And to think that this wasn't done years ago, it feels like we've been doing it forever. And it's hard to get something part of your culture, but we're there with this. And this is a very exciting direction. I won't talk too much about this because Sophia had already talked about this, but the instrumental music show, absolutely outstanding. Mr. Klotzel has this innate ability to pick the most challenging and the most impactful music. Like he will take every emotion and just pull you in. And it was just great, but it was nice to see his fiance there. I was able to meet, I've met his mom before, but I was able to meet his dad. It was a family event, but just the highest level of music quality. And so thank you to Mr. Klotzel very much for that performance. Sophia already talked about this, but I can't underscore again, this is another real staple of the district, and beyond anything I've ever seen in any other school district. The people that we get, the quality of people that we get that come in are just second to none, and really an important day. Many students, when they're graduated and they've moved on, they will always talk about Career Day and about how somebody influenced their life in a way that took them on a different trajectory. So very, very great day and a very successful day. I want to thank Mr. Ellis for all the work that he puts in for the Students Run LA, which is going to be coming up this weekend which is aligned with the LA Marathon. And this is just another way to reach out to the community. And this is a lot of work. And this is a great way to open up our schools and have people outside from different communities and really kind of come together. And it's an event for students right after the marathon. And there's some recognition there. And there's a lot of traffic. There's a lot of people, but it's a great way to show off what's happening in our school and in our community, to have Beverly Hills be that place where students go right after the race. We're also starting some planning meetings for Run for the Stars with that's in honor of Mason Book. And I really do love that this has become an annual event for our school district for one of our very own students. This is also something, this trend that I'm hearing, from the Science Olympiad team to even Run for the Stars. Things are getting bigger. More people are participating, and that's a great path for us. The trajectory of that, more people are signing up. We're getting 2 teams instead of 1 team. We're getting hundreds of more runners and people in our community that are signing up for these events. And, that is, again, excellence in a school district. And just really very excited to be able to share that with you. So those planning meetings are starting. We'll have more information for you soon, but we're very, very excited to partner with Not Today Cancer for this incredible event. Congratulations to Mrs. Wells, who unfortunately could not be here this evening. But as you know, Mrs. Wells will be moving on to the City Council and her seat. So I do want to share a date with you for the installation for our new mayor, Lester Friedman, and Mrs. Wells as well will be there. I know many of us will be attending in support. This is a really nice evening at the Wallace. It's a long evening, but it's a very, very well done, put together installation. And so we hope to see many people there. And that is my report. And if I could just say one more thing too. So I just want to take my opportunity to thank my team for, I'm handling a matter that's outside of the district, that's important to the district. And I just want to thank all of you for stepping up and really helping and being there throughout the day. It's true teamwork. Thank you. And I really just don't underestimate the amount of work that's happening at our district office. And for that assistance during this time is just so appreciated. So thank you.
All right, lots of great information, great announcements, all good. Let's go around. Ms. Lipson?
No questions, just thank you, Dr. Breggy. I think you highlighted some of the really, really exciting things we have coming up to look forward to. So yeah,
Thanks.
Really a big thank you to you. I don't know how you prepared that this week with everything else going on. I just would encourage anybody, if they can, I know the meetings can be long, but if I was a parent, I would just zoom in or zone in on your superintendent's report. It's such an accurate and wonderful depiction of the depth of what's going on in our school district. And I'm sure it's very time consuming to prepare. So thank you for doing it, because it's very worthwhile.
Thank you. I do get some help from Mrs. Starkins, but the best part about that presentation is being there at all of those events and being able to speak about them. That's the best part of the job.
What a comprehensive, wonderful report, complete. I'm amazed at everything that's going on and everybody keeping up with what's going on. It's really a tribute to you, and I was a couple questions that I had that I wanted to ask. How long has Culver City had the AVID report, or the AVID program? So I know you went to visit it because we're instituting it. How long have they had it?
Over 10 years.
10 years. Wow, okay. And of course, obviously, it's doing a lot of good. And another comment I just want to share, 10% increase in the kids who take the SAT was a wonderful accomplishment. That takes a lot of work to get those kids to do that, and I'm glad to hear that number. It's really impressive.
Yes, and again,
it may not sound like a lot, but 10%
It's like
is
100,
really,
right? 10% would be like
Over 100.
over 100,
yeah.
right? Yeah.
I mean, and thank you to the board for trusting us and allowing us to move in that direction. It's become a way of life for our students now. And again, the information that we get invaluable.
I would like to also mention, I believe that the high school PTSA does a lot that morning to help the kids get in the mood and get ready and what they.
Absolutely. There's balloons,
they're
snacks.
Wonderful.
I mean,
I just want to mention that
yeah.
because I think that they deserve a little credit there.
They do, yeah.
So, I mean, in addition to everybody else that does.
Thank you for saying that, because I did leave them out and I didn't mean to. It's such a welcoming, it's really a celebration of our students and their work. And so there's, the most amazing snacks. Believe me, you're not going to get those snacks in a vending machine. And fresh fruit. And it's really, setting up success for our kids with proper nutrition, hydrating, the everything that you'd want before you sit down and take a test.
I actually have an unusual comment, but that is, I really enjoy the color scheme and the branding of the reports. It's absolutely, Ms. Starkins, it's just, it's beautiful, and it pulls it together. You really get a sense and a theme and a thematic sense and a sentiment for each school because of the color, because of the logos. And I wasn't here for high school, but I doubt there was that level of coordination. It's actually very...
there wasn't.
Oh, okay. He can...
I think back to just one meeting that we had in here before we started to look at branding, and we had asked people to just bring in their green T-shirts from Beverly Vista, and we lined the first 2 rows with, and it was every shade of green possible. Like there was just no.
It wasn't that one.
There was no consistency. There was no and it really. The other thing too that I just want to mention is we were working on another project earlier in the week, and we went and we were looking for a document that was like 4 or 5 years ago. And we almost shrieked when we looked at it because it was the stars and it was, again, different colors and it was just, it just shows that we've come such a long way and our goal at that time, and we're there and now we just need to sustain it, is that when something comes from BHUSD, you can tell it comes from BHUSD. And that was the goal. Like, you know that it's coming from our school district.
Right, and you could argue that it's sort of a superficial thing, it's the way something looks, but it's much more than that. It actually sort of ties together the culture and the feeling of a certain school. Yep. And so you're right, when you see something like, whenever I see that particular purple, or I see some of the branding that goes with like that school, I think, it's really helpful. So thank you for that. With that, we're going to move into personnel services. I would like to ask Elena Castanon. She would like to offer some public comment. Thank you, Elena.
Thank you, Dr. Stern. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
it. Hi, good evening, everyone. Board of Education and Dr. Breggy. I have some short comments prepared on this item. By way of introduction, I'm Elena Castanon. I'm a middle school science teacher and STEM teacher and the certificated president for the Teachers Union here in Beverly Hills. Tonight, seeing the reduction in force resolution on the board agenda was disheartening. While I'm hopeful that many of these reductions will be handled through attrition, I'm concerned that there will be some that are not. The hazard of potentially losing quality, dedicated teachers should not be taken lightly, and I hope that this is part of your consideration on this matter. In light of the continued conversations in California of teaching jobs going unfilled throughout the school year, I will ask, is this a time when BHUSD could be making decisions based on long-term staffing plans and retention of educators? I'm sure that you're aware that this cycle of issuing and potentially rescinding RIFs creates a lot of stress in the workplace, and that's our schools. I'd love to see our district avoid this process this year, if at all possible. I ask you to reconsider taking action on Resolution 2023-2024 009 tonight, and instead find solutions within BHUSD that will enable us to retain teachers and staff. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Elena. Moving forward,
I'd like to make a motion for the approval of Resolution 2023-2024 009 to reduce or discontinue particular kinds of service. And I know how bizarre that sounds coming off of Elena's comments. But
can I get a second?
I will second.
Okay, motion made by Mr. Margot, seconded by Ms. Marcus. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I will make a motion to the approval of resolution number 2023-2024-010 regarding the elimination of classified positions.
I'll second.
Okay, motion made by Ms. Marcus, seconded by Mr. Margot. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I'll make a motion for the approval of Resolution 2023-2024-011 to non-reelect and release from employment certificated probationary employees.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we are moving on to business and finance. And we do have a report.
Before he starts his report, I would just like to say that take close attention, because I was the board member that was at this, and this is the report that he's giving that I would have given, but I don't have to give.
You sure you don't want to? I'm sure Raphael would like
I
to
don't
just
want to
sit
give,
there.
but I'm just saying if anybody, I'm not going to make a comment about it. So you let her rip.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Guzman.
Well, good evening, Dr. Stern, board president, and board members as well as staff and community members, everyone here today. Good evening. It's a pleasure to be here today and to talk a little bit about OPEB. Really, there's not much to share about this. This is an actual report that needs to be done now on a yearly basis. The way it works, it's kind of like every other year. There's the actual valuation, and then after that, you have like a follow-up that's done. That it considers really the variables of the first valuation report. So I just wanted to share really quickly. I mean, if you have the attachment there, but I'll go ahead and share it here on the screen because it's a report, and I'll go ahead and share that now. I'll jump here to page 8 of the report just to kind of have you be aware of what exactly is going on there. So 1 second while that pops up. So with the OPEB liability, it looks at our liabilities for retiree benefits in the future. And as you know, with retirement costs and everything like that, and the health benefit costs increasing year after year, we have to do this, and it's part of our books. It ends up being in our liability side, and we have to make sure that we account for some of this. I want to, before getting really specific about this, I wanted to just thank the Finance Committee for finding this actuarial, Ms. Watts, and they've just done a fantastic job of just giving us accurate information, and that's really important for us to make our determinations. But the gist of it, I just want to thank, again, our Finance Committee, Mr. Elliot Finkel, as well as just everyone else on the committee, and in a particular thing, Mr., and I don't want to get his name wrong, so I wrote down, Mr. Joe Safier as well. He's always been very consistent about recommending this to the board to continue to fund this liability. So if we just zero in here, the measurement last year, and I'm going to just kind of try to zoom in here a little bit, was, okay, this number here, the 16.0 number that you're seeing there on the screen, that $16 million was our OPEB liability last year. And now, good news for the board is that it's dropped to 9.9 million, our OPEB liability. So that's excellent news. And let me explain a little about what happened. It's not some magical thing. It's just, for one, the discount rate increased from 5.3 to 5.9. So when they're making their assumptions, when the actuarial is making an assumption, they make an assumption about the discount rate that they're able to discount the liability by. And that has a lot to do with the interest rates for bonds and everything else. Since we've seen an improvement in that sense, it helps, and we're able to utilize that. So it went from 5.3 to 5.9. That made a difference. But the other thing that made a difference was that our team, was able to look at this data a lot closer and verify a lot of the figures, verify a lot of the staff. And there was a lot of work that was done. This was a much more intensive approach. I'm not saying that it was done incorrectly in the past, because I don't think that's the case, but we just really did a lot of auditing of who should and shouldn't be on this report, and that created a lot of savings there as well in regards to the actuarial. It's just another example of the cleanup that's being done in our department, and we were able to remove a lot of the things that were reported in the past that way. And I just want to thank publicly Ms. Marilu de Arcos, who's here in the audience here today. She really spearheaded that, along with the rest of our finance team. But that had a material impact on this report. So now it's 9.9, our OPEB liability, our net OPEB liability. So that's really good. And I think the other highlight of the report, I would say, is on page 24. I'm going to go to that real quickly. Bear with me for 1 second while I go there. And so just here, you could see the impact that had. So, and I'm just going to kind of briefly, I know it's kind of hard to see there, but, on this report here, the net OPEB, so the contribution that we have to make, there's something called the actuarially determined contribution. Again, I'll repeat that, the actuarially determined contribution. What is that? That is the amount that the actuary says that we should contribute each year. If we contribute that amount, we can use the full discount rate and discount our net OPEB liability. If we don't contribute that full amount over in an average of the past 5 years, then we can't utilize the full discount rate. So then our net OPEB liability will rise. If you make no contributions, then you can't use the full discount rate, and you use a lower rate. So, in layman's terms, if you're able to make this contribution, you're able to use almost the full discount rate. Now, for us, that, if you look at it, it was 1.8 million in 2023. That was the actuarially determined contribution. This number right here, 1.8 million. That's what the actuary was recommending. Now, because of all of these adjustments, meaning the discount rate and the true up of all the staffing that's supposed to be in there, it dropped to 1.4 and then 1.5. So that's really good news for us, because we were at about 1.4, 1.5 in a lot of our contributions. So that means that now we'll eventually be hitting that average. And so it's going to help our net OPEB liability. And so it's really good news for us in that sense. So just that is about the gist of the report. There's really not much more into that. And I don't know if there's any other questions that you may have.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Guzman. I've been looking. I'm trying to find the trending on the liability. Has it consistently gone down since we started pre-funding? Has there ever been a time where it's tripped up? Because it only goes back a few.
So there is a schedule
20,
here.
think,
Let me go to that page that shows that. One second while I go there. There was a year where we didn't hit like the ADC, the actual determined contribution. I'm just gonna go to that page. Sorry, one second. It's a lot of, as you can see, this is a lot of data, a lot of assumptions that are made here. And hold on while I go to that. Sorry. Okay, so one second. It's just hard to navigate this when I have it on the Zoom.
What page?
But yeah, I'm going towards it's towards the end here, I believe. But basically, oh, there it is. Just past it. Where did it go? Sorry, here it is. Okay, so this is kind of like showing how like everything has increased or
What page
decreased.
is that? Because I have it.
That's page 18. It kind of shows you like the outflow and inflow of the measurements and like kind of how that's trended for the past couple years. From 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. And so it kind of shows you there a little bit of the changes. But if you go up a little bit to page 16, it also shows you the history. So let me kind of highlight that. So back in 2018, the district actually contributed, the actually determined contribution was 1.7. And then the contributions from relations was 489,000. So there was a deficiency of 1.2 million there in 2018. I think that's around the time when the finance committee kind of brought this up to the board, and you started making contributions in 18-19. And so now that actually that year there was a little more. It shows negative 113 here, but it's actually that what that means is that you contributed more than the ADC, the actual determined contribution. And then the next year as well, in 2021, it was a little less. It was 360, which is not a bad thing. As long as you're still making a contribution, it helps your net OPEB liability, because then they can utilize an average of the discount rate. And then it's been going at about 300,000 that we've missed in that sense. But with this change, now it's going to put us right at where we are with the current assumptions that we have. So it's going to help us hit that 100%. And the more that we could get closer to 100%, and if we average 100% over 5 years, then we can utilize the full discount rate, which would lower our net OPEB liability.
Which gets me to the next question, as we're going to approve the second interim. Are we at that point in the next 3 years as far as our contribution? Is that budgeted?
Yes,
already?
it is budgeted.
To get us to that 100%?
It should, with the revised net OPEB liability. It's going to get us there based on the assumptions that I'm seeing today. Now, mind you, at the next measurement period, these numbers may change, because we don't know exactly how the medical, the health and welfare costs are going to rise. The actuarial has certain assumptions for that. If those assumptions are a little off, it could go up or down. But as of the way we see it now, we're going to be able to hit that 100%.
So is there a possibility, since it's now below, I think you said it was below $1 million, the net OPEB liability was 900,000 or something?
It's not. No, it's 9 million.
Sorry, 9 million.
Mhm.
Excuse me, under 10 million. I meant. Is there a way to eventually? And I think when we started this, we were in the upper 20s. Our net liability was
Oh yes.
in the upper 20s, close to 30. So
Mhm.
we've gone down a lot in the last decade since we've been pre-funding. Is there a way to eliminate the liability? Do we want to eliminate the liability, or is there a healthy medium to strike between maintaining a small net liability and not overfunding it?
So that's a difficult question, right? In the sense of, yes. So like if, for example, you made a large one-time payment of $9 million into that account, like it would essentially help towards wiping that out and self-sustaining. The problem with that is the only place to make that from is from your reserves. And what the district is doing now is actually great in the sense of, if we maintain what we're doing, and this sounds kind of crazy and ridiculous a little bit, I'm sorry to say this, but if we maintain this for the next 20 years, in about 20 years, it's going to be self-sustaining. Okay. I think that's a healthy assumption to make, and it's kind of, you have to kind of measure, the more you do, the less there is in your reserve. Right. And so it's kind of, how do you want to do it? You could be more aggressive and exceed it and just, try to pay more towards it. But the more you do that, the less in your reserve. So it's kind of this dance of, where do you want your reserves? Where do you want your net OPEB liability to be at? And I think, where the district is headed, and I think we reviewed this even with the finance committee, because that same question, it's funny, it was asked by one of the members of our finance committee of, well, how long is it going to take? And our actuarial told us it'll be about 20 years, and what you guys are doing now is great. Because a lot of other districts in the state of California are not even funding this. And it's going to be an issue in a few years when these costs continue to go up and there's not a budget for it. So this is going to help us tremendously.
Thank you.
Raphael, I have a quick question for you. I just want to make sure I understand. Tonight we are approving the report, but we are not actually approving the funding.
So the funding was already part of the adopted budget.
Right.
And when you approved the adopted budget, it was approved then.
Right.
And so this report is just a reflection of where our measurement is as of 2023, the end of 2023. And that's what we will then use for the future years. It's how we're going to adjust our budget in our multi-year projection.
That's what I thought. So this is our reconciliation of having done that.
Correct.
Thank you.
Yes.
I would just like for the people in the audience to quickly explain to them, if they don't understand, what's going on, what does OPEB, and what is this all about? Because people in the audience may not understand all of what this, and I'm not going to do it. I'd rather have you do it, and then I'll ask my question. So could you, in a brief synopsis, explain why we have to do this? And
Sure. I think the best way to explain it is just to explain what OPEB is, right? OPEB stands for Other Post-Employment Benefits, to begin with. And what that means is that, our district has policies, board policies, as well as agreements with our unions of what happens when an employee retires. What type of benefits do they get? How long are those benefits for? What can they purchase with those benefits? That's all defined in our contracts, in our board policies, and everything else. So what is OPEB? Essentially, it tries to quantify what our liability will be in the long run for these benefits, because we have to pay them. And so there has to be a place to pay them from. And usually for most districts, they pay it out of general fund monies. So it's kind of that's why it's called the liability, not in the sense of, oh, we're upset that we're having to pay for this. That's not it at all. It's just the accounting term of it. It's a liability that the district has to carry. So that's why you hear this term of net OPEB liability. What that means, net OPEB liability, is you have your OPEB liability, and then you either have or have no reserves in OPEB to cover what that liability is. And so the total OPEB liability minus what you have and a couple of other formulas in there will determine your net OPEB liability. That's what you have outstanding in the future, right? So many districts are now being more aggressive about trying to get in front of that and be able to use discount rates and everything else to be able to fund these, so that eventually at some point in time you'll have enough in that fund where it funds the OPEB liabilities ongoing. So that's essentially what that is. It's vitally important A lot of districts don't have the funds or the reserves, and so what happens is they have to put it in their budget, and so their budget is just going to go up and up and up on the retirement costs. And as you know, health and welfare costs across the board are just going up and up and up, and so that's what many districts are going to continue to see. So that's really what that is.
Okay, then, so that leaves me with a couple of questions. First of all, I really appreciate what started several years ago with the Finance Committee getting onto this and getting us up to speed, because we would not be where we are today had it not been for them. And they brought it to our attention and made great, I remember the people that were on that group and really brought it to our attention. The second thing, so in this year's budget, or what we will prepare, do you foresee that we will budget the amount of money that will be our actuarial determined contribution? Do you see that we might be doing that this year?
So and this is, thank you for that question, because I think it just highlights how the budget changes throughout time. If you would have asked me that question in June of last year when we adopted the budget, my answer would be no. We wouldn't fully hit the 100%, because at that point in time we weren't. But because of the changes that we saw in this report, I am certain that we will hit the 100% for this year. So that's good news for us. Based on our assumptions now, we will hit that 100% mark. In fact, we'll be a little bit above that, which isn't a bad thing. That doesn't mean we're overpaying or anything like that. I don't want to give that assumption to anyone here in the public. It's just you'll be above what the ADC recommended, the actuarially determined contribution.
I want to thank you for everything you do, Raphael.
Oh, no.
It's amazing. And to carry on like this and to keep us up abreast, I'm really very, very glad that you're on our team.
Oh,
so
thank you.
Thank you very much. And I'd always like to work with you.
Oh, thank you, Ms. Marcus. And I have to say, it's a team effort, and I want to just, again, highlight the work that Marilu did with this. She literally went line by line on these employees, on the report of the employees, and just made sure that we had the right list, and that really helped this number. And so things like that, little things, sometimes they seem insignificant, but they really make a difference. So thank you to Marilu and the team and the accounting team. Thank you.
Can I make a motion to approve the report?
Second the report.
Okay, motion made by Mr. Margot, seconded by Ms. Marcus. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you. All right. May I get a motion for actually, it's just a discussion item. Oh.
I will make a motion for the approval of the second interim report for 2023-2024.
I'll second.
I'm sure Mr. Raphael will be on top of it.
All in favor?
Well, we haven't discussed it. He hasn't presented it yet.
Okay, thank you. So I'll be brief. And so we'll go ahead and go through the 23-24 second interim budget report. And it should be displayed here on the screen shortly. Again, it takes a real team. I just want to thank everyone for their support throughout this. Ms. Marilu de Arcos met with every one of our department heads to kind of go over their budget, make sure that we have their assumptions in line. I want to thank everybody for their support, especially with the executive cabinet, Dr. Horvath, Ms. Collins Williams for her support, and of course, Mr. Dustin Seaman, and who really helped us out as well. Thank you so much to everyone, all of our departments that worked, and our principals for meeting with us. So it really takes a team, and I'm thankful for their support, as well as our local finance team. We have great people in our accounting department, and I'm thankful to all of them for their support. So where are we? We're in March right now, and again, this is always cyclical. This budget continues to cycle and cycle, and so we're at second interim. The numbers that you're seeing today will probably change a little bit when we do the estimated actuals. That's the nature of our budget. And so that's really important for all of us to understand that these external factors sometimes impact our budget. Again, we are a community-funded district, so we're a little bit different from other districts in the sense that most of our funds come from property taxes, which means, again, that ADA doesn't really drive our funding. Whereas most districts are focused on ADA driving funding, for us, that's not the case. In fact, changes in ADA don't greatly affect our unrestricted revenues. That doesn't mean that we shouldn't focus on ADA, because having students in school is really important. And we do focus on ADA, and we do a great job of it. And so, but it's just important to note that it doesn't drive the primary source of our funding. So our property tax revenue, so you could see there, continues to go higher and higher, and trending higher with each period. At our last P1 report of the estimate report of P1 taxes, we were at 68.8 million in property tax revenue, which is up from 65.9 million in the unaudited actuals from 22-23. Our enrollment, it does show that right now we're at about 3,041. Now that number is based on our CBEDS day, so that number is going to look a little bit different from what's actually happening like right now. But because it's fiscal, we have to show the number that's on our CalPads and everything like that. So that's why you'll see that number. But just that's where we are with enrollment. Now, general fund salaries continue to rise. They are at $51 million as of now. And our general funding expenditures per student is at about $32.2 thousand per student. So $32,000 per student is what we're kind of funding as of now. And so to talk a little bit about the general fund and how it breaks down, I'm going to have Ms. Marilu D'Arcos present these next couple of slides. She'll go over how the sources of the general fund revenue present themselves.
Sure. Good evening, board members, Dr. Bragi. I just want to take the time to say thank you again to all the principals, directors, cabinet members for taking the time to meet with me to discuss all of your budget needs. It's really helpful and beneficial for us as a team to work together. And I just want to really highlight that we meet at every interim, so they're really taking the time multiple times a year to discuss their budgets, and that's really what has helped us get the budget as perfect as we can. And so our sources of general fund revenue right now we are for every dollar that we receive, 73 cents come from our Beverly Hills property taxes. 18 cents are other local revenues, such as our JPA, BHEF, PTAs, and other gifts and donations. 7 cents are other state of California funds, like our Education Protection Act, Basic Aid Supplement, Lottery, CTE, mandated cost grants, and COVID programs. And 2 cents of each dollar are federal funds, ESSER funds, title programs, and other categoricals. And then our budget allocation of each dollar received, 77 cents goes to employee salaries and benefits, 3 cents are for books and supplies, 19 cents are for services and other operating expenses such as insurance, utilities, legal, and other contracts, and 1 cent of deferred maintenance and technology refresh.
Thank you. And again, you can see that the main source of our revenues are the property taxes and the JPA. And of course, the federal government does give us their 2 cents. Second interim budget report background. The 23-24 second interim report contains information regarding the district's budget and updated multi-year projections as of January 31. So that's why I say these numbers are going to change. We looked at everything that happened up to January 31st. And then we said, okay, let's trend this out. And that's how we got to the numbers where we got. Now, that number can change if something transpires between now and June 30th. So, and most likely, there are things that will come to light and we'll have to make some changes. It is due to LACO by March 18th, so I hope that we could get this approved today. And we do revise our grant allocations and we update our expenditure projections, our actuals, our POs, and whatnot. So how does this look? Our general fund revenue on the revenue side, at first interim, we were at 97 million. We've kind of lowered that to 96.4. The main reason for that was because we had to do an adjustment to our arts, music, and instructional materials block grant. That had to be reclassified as a beginning fund balance instead of a revenue. So we had to make that adjustment based on our feedback that we received from our auditor. And so it really didn't go anywhere. It's not that we reduced it. It's just that now it's living in another area of our budget. And so that's why we wanted to make sure that we say that. The other area that we saw a little bit of reduction in was our local revenue. The major items have come in, but we have seen a slowdown in other kind of donations. And so we had to make sure we recognize that at this point in time because it's advanced enough to where we think that we're not going to hit a lot of those donation items that we normally would throughout the years. In regards to staffing and general fund expenditures, in regards to general fund expenditures, we saw some adjustments we were at 37.9 at first interim for certificate of salaries, and now we're at about 37 now. The main reason for that was due to we now are recognizing any sort of any sort of vacancy adjustments for that, any sort of adjustments for employees on leave that we normally would have to budget for and make sure we have in the budget, attrition as well. And of course, we also made some adjustments at second interim that due to the HCM transition that we had. When we did first interim, normally we make a lot of adjustments then. But because of the changes that we had with HCM, we wanted to make sure we had a run through to make sure that we have the right report numbers and everything. So we wanted to give LACO a couple more months to make sure that they have the right numbers in our reports. And now we were able to make the correct adjustments. And as you can see, basically the bottom line, the ending fund balance amounts there, the total expenses were at 97.9, so now they're at lower at about 98.7. And then finally, how does this impact our budget? So what's the operational impact of this? So it lowers our budget by like 910,000, and our ending fund balance. For the first interim, we had 910,000 lowering, and then we're at 24.7. And now at second interim, we have negative 2.2, but we have our reserve, so we're at 24.2. And again, the majority of that has to do with some of the adjustments we had to make for the changes at the beginning fund balance with the arts, music, instructional material grants and things of that nature. And we're also spending down a lot of our one-time dollars, so we're accounting for that, as well as we've accelerated our expenses in other programs like the Expanded Learning Opportunity Program and things of that nature that now are being spent as well. So we're putting that in the budget and making sure that we're accounting for it. Now, how does this look? How does this picture look in the long run? So our revenues, 96.4, expenses, 98.7, operational impact of negative 2.2, but our beginning fund balance was 26.5. So our general fund ending balance minus restricted balances is 21.7. What does that mean? That with counting the Fund 17 of 10.7 million, our total unrestricted ending fund balance is 32.4, which means that our reserve level right now is 32.89%. Next year, our reserve will go down to about 26%, a little above 26%, marginally. And then in 25-26, we'll be right at 25%. The majority of that is you could see that there's some increased expenditures. This goes from 98.7 to 104.3. And so the majority of that is an assumption of salary negotiation assumptions that we made in the second interim. And so we're adding that. And so you're seeing that reserve kind of be depleted there because of those impacts. As you can see, next year, the operational impact is negative 6 million. And then it starts kind of to settle out in the out years, negative 2.5 million. But again, where I really want to draw your attention to is that line in bold. That's where our ending fund balance is at. And so you can see we are still at 25%. And we also have, aside from that, we have Fund 17, the technology plan, and Fund 17 for liabilities. So that one is still there in all of those years. I do want to make sure that I articulate this, and I'm almost done here, I promise. But I just want to make sure that I articulate this. The reserve is really important for our district. And the main reason for that is because we get the majority of our funds in December and then in April. So there's a 6-month period, like from July through December, where we have to have something in the bank. It's kind of like with your own check. If you were told, hey, I'm only going to pay you twice a year, you're going to have to figure out how you're going to have cash throughout that time. And so this is what happens with our district because we're a community funded district. So the majority of our monies come in December, and then we get some in April. And so that's why this reserve is so crucial to the district, because we wouldn't be able to, we'd have the budget numbers work, but the cash wouldn't be there. So then we'd have to do all sorts of borrowing and all sorts of other things to be able to hit our cash obligations. So that is why you see that reserve level. And that's something that's been discussed with the Finance Committee as well and analyzed there to where we should be for those reserve levels. And so that pretty much wraps up the general fund. Other funds, Fund 8, you could see there, we're assuming those will be expended fully. Fund 13 has a reserve still of about $844,000, and we don't have a contribution again this year for food services. Fund 13 has a very minimal reserve of $274, which is good. That means that we're spending our money and we're doing our deferred maintenance. Fund 17 is going from 13.1 to 13.9. Mind you, though, that it says 13.9, but some of those funds are for the tech refresh plan as well as other liabilities. So that's what composes Fund 17. Fund 21, you can see we're spending some money there to lower because of the construction. We're ending at 94.6. Developer fees are ending at about 890,000. Fund 35 is still there. Eventually, we're going to make that payment, and that'll be gone because that's part of the funds for our construction projects. And Fund 67 is also at about 500,000. It's pretty even with what we started. Finally, our OPEB fund that we just spoke about, it's going from 5.7 to about 8.4. The reason for that is because of the timing of the contributions that were made. So it's showing up as though like we made 2 contributions this year. So that's why it's showing there. But at our last statement, we are right in line to be at 8.4 million. And that's about it. Those are all our funds. Next steps is hopefully the approval of the second interim. And again, expect further revisions at the estimated actuals, and we'll continue to monitor our property taxes. So, and then we'll leave it at there. So thank you so much, and I'll leave it to questions.
Okay, any questions? I know we had a motion on the floor, but
I think we have a motion.
we have a motion.
We
So,
do.
okay.
We do.
Motion put forth by Ms. Marcus.
Yeah, it was put forth already. We did it already. Let's get to the questions.
Okay.
Let's get to the fun stuff. Thank you, Mr. Guzman. Appreciate it as always. We really could bypass the first 6 pages next time. I think we all know that stuff by now. And if we don't, we should get an F. So, we just did 3 resolutions reducing some staff for various reasons. I still think the district has to be diligent about our staffing, our overall staffing on all levels. I keep bringing this up, and I'm hoping one day it will stick. I was just mentioning this to Ms. Manicherry, that when the district had over 5,000 students, whatever it was, when I was here and there were 2,600 kids in the high school and K-8s were flush with all the people, I don't think we had that much more staff than we have now. I mean, we're very close to what we've always had with literally half the students. And I think that in the next year, looking at the projections here, we really have to get steadfast about finding out how we can be more efficient and streamlined, still run a very successful, effective district, still make sure that our students, all students have the opportunities that they have. We don't reduce that, but I strongly believe there is a better way, a more efficient way for us to deliver this run a district than we're doing right now. I think we've grown to be a little top heavy more recently, and I just want to continue looking at opportunities to kind of trim and see how we can move it forward and be able to maintain the reserve safely and be able to support our faculty when times come up that's necessary without always having to bite our nails. I think there are periods. Listen, we've always had positive certifications, right, in our budget. Ever since I've been here, we've never been qualified, never been negative. It's always been positive certification, and that's a testimony to this board and all the boards before it that really paid attention to what, let's say, the finance committee was telling us or our CBOs were telling us. But I think we really need to focus on finding better ways to deliver the education with fewer people, because I don't think, as we've added all of these positions here, there, and everywhere, every nook and cranny that we filled, that it's necessarily led us, then this is no one's particular fault. It hasn't led us to the results that I would expect. Looking at the thing that shocks me is the price per pupil, right? The price per pupil. How are we? I would love to know how we are compared to other districts around us, harder to say because of ADA and we're basic aid, but at least in basic aid districts, what is a breakdown price per pupil? Because that would be something to say, is there a correlation between the amount that we are spending per pupil and the results we're getting, right? That would be something. And if you look around and at very high performing districts, if you all see the same thing, okay, I'm willing to say, yeah, that's about what it costs to educate people with a modicum of results that are positive but need improvement, right? If not, and we're spending way more than other districts and not getting the results that we should, then we really need to take a step back and say, okay, now let's all take a breath before we jump into budgeting for the following year and figure this out. Thanks.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And yes, the items that were presented were included in those numbers that you're seeing before you in the multi-year projection. Had we not included those, basically you would not be at a 25% reserve, which would then create an issue that I would have to mention to the board of cash flow. And so that's where this is sometimes very difficult. But I think that we're actively continuing to verify and look at ways to make sure that we're operating at the most optimal level. And so we'll definitely continue to consider all these things.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. Looks great and is very understandable. I share in Mr. Margot's observations. I think the contrast of page 9, which demonstrates the total enrollment has gone down by approximately 900 from 2017 to this year. Let's say that's a 25% reduction, right? And then in contrast, the expenditure per student has almost doubled in the same time. And so the charts are really going in opposite directions. And I'm ready to have a serious conversation to better understand what's been happening. I acknowledge that we're not necessarily comparing apples to apples of 6-7 years ago and our needs and the community of students that we have. And so I'm not saying that we need to go back to those rates and those figures, but I do think that we need to figure out where were we, where are we, and what decisions should we be making to be responsible in optimizing our financial condition. And maybe it is a reflection on how we're operating, how we're teaching, what we're doing as well. And so I welcome the conversation maybe at a later time in more depth about a moving forward, understanding, please.
Sure. Thank you. And just to point out one thing there, one of the drivers of that increase has been the increase in property tax revenue. And so, and when we're looking at the per student expense, what we're doing is we're looking at the total expenditures, we're looking at enrollment, and we're kind of doing a formula there to arrive at what that number is. So the higher your expenditures are, the more that number is going to go up, especially if the enrollment is lower. So that's why it may seem a certain way, but really it's just been the property taxes rising and then the school district expending accordingly.
That comes back to Noah's point, so we're generating more income, but how are we spending it? Are we spending it the right way? And so I think this board would be a good board to have this kind of a conversation with, to make sure that we are, being as responsible as we can be.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Appreciate
it. Several years ago when I ran for the school board, one of the things that I took an interest in was the per pupil expenditure. And I have to tell you that I know for a fact that we are way, way, way more than many of almost all of the districts. We are at the top. I don't know how many are like us, but I remember the figures, and I was seeing $16,000, $17,000 per student, and we were way up there. And to Noah's point, we're spending much, much more, but are we getting what some of the better the districts that have got the high academic achievements and so on, are we getting the same thing? I've often wondered that. I know that the district, the community senses that also. I know that they look at that. I mean, we have a great school system and everything, but $32,000 per student, and you look at the other school districts around, nowhere is near that, as I recall. So that was just something that Noah brought that up. I brought that to my attention, that I looked at that several years ago when I was running for the school board, and I was running on a balanced budget. I would just like to make one more thing clear. It's disturbing, and there's not much we can do right now, but that the reserve is dropping by from 32 million or 32% to 25%. And I know what's driving that, but I just hope that we can somehow get that under control so that it doesn't look that way in the future. So I'd like to just say that for comment.
Thank you. And we're doing everything, we can to maintain that 25%. And I think in the future, if the property taxes continue to rise, that'll help to get us there. But there definitely will be, as you mentioned, we have to look at our expenses and make sure that we analyze where we are to be at that 25% level. But it is, often there's this picture of our district having like deep pockets and having oil wells and all this other stuff, and it's a fake picture. And I want to make that clear to whoever hears this: we don't have deep pockets. We do have oil wells, but they actually cost us millions of dollars, not generate millions of dollars. We spent millions of dollars in capping all these oil wells. And so there's this perception that we have all this money, and we don't. And so the little reserve that we do have that allows us to pay our staff, our wonderful teachers, our great classified staff, everyone, how we're able to pay them is because we have that reserve. And or else we'd be in some trouble with cash. And so I thank the board for keeping us abreast of keeping at a level where we can continue to meet our obligations. But I think it's really important to know, yes, we have that reserve, but it's not, it's something that we need to function.
I wonder, though, I'm curious to know when we apply for our interim report, if that drop is going to change if we still could get a positive report.
Yes, we're very much positive. Yes, you'll be fine there.
Well, it raises a little red flag, but I'm sure it could be sent with an explanation.
Yes, thank you.
I was wondering if you could turn to the page with the per pupil expenditure. You quickly did. I had some thoughts on that.
Okay. Sure. And sorry, it's if they could project it on the screen.
Yeah. If not, I can just...
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. All right. So I see that now the current school year, it's $32,224. And I think that in the community, there is some confusion about what it means when we have a school that is, a public school, and it's a free and appropriate education. I thought it'd be helpful if you could just explain, in brass tacks sort of terms, what exactly are some of those expenditures that might account for, spending $32,000 per student?
Well, it's all of our expenditures as a school. Like and you divide it by the total number of enrollment, and really, it's an excellent point because, electricity's gone. All of our services, all of our electrical bills, and all of our gas and water, all of that has gone up in the past years. Salaries have risen as well in the past years, and everything that you can think of that you need to run a school. It's just not just it's not just to the payment of a teacher. It also involves the staff that's in the school, everyone, right? All of the general fund expenditures that are required to run a school. Mm-hmm. And for us, this is what we're spending. We're spending about, when you average it out, that's what what we're spending every year.
So it's operational, it's materials.
It's everything.
It's, a layperson might think, oh, it's the desks and the books, but there's a lot more. It's sort of a shared sharing of expenses for all the many things and the components and layers that go into, and you're right, the rising costs.
Yeah. So one thing to remember is, we get funds for this. So, this is the thing where it's like, but you get money for it. But it drops into your expenditure is the JPA. Our sites are open twice as long as a lot of other school sites because of the JPA, and we get our funding on the revenue side. This is the thing. You're looking at the expense side, but it comes in, we get funding from the city for it, but then our expenses rise too because we have to have our schools open. We have to have the electricity on. We have to have water. Security. We have to have staff, security, all of that. And so sometimes it throws off when you only look at the expense, because then the revenue, I'm not saying it's unfair, the city's paying their share of it, and they're doing it greatly, and we appreciate that. But on the expense side, it's going to bump up your expense versus a regular district that can close up shop at 6 p.m.
Got it. Okay, very good. That's all I have, but thank you very much.
I also wanted to point out that the number obviously is an average.
Yes.
Right? It's not every, you can't look at every single student and say, that student's costing us, my daughter's costing us $32,000, your son is costing us, no. Even the minutia of it, if you think about it, one student can have mostly general ed classes, no athletics, maybe one elective. One student can have 3 general ed and 3 other classes that perhaps those classes just cost more to run, right? There could be a CTE class that just costs more to run, whether it brings in the revenue or not. So there's just the nuances of a particular student and how much they require to be educated, right? So when we look at, like I said, we look at that number, it's a really general number, and it shouldn't, and I understand that. So when Judy and I were all talking about I understand, first of all, we're not a for-profit business. We should be spending the money on the students. By the way, if we get the money, we should be spending the money toward their education. But I think our biggest concern is there's so many layers within those expenditures. Are they all bringing us the biggest bang for our buck? And I think in the next few months we can take a deeper dive into that and kind of figure out going forward what district we want to be organizational wise to provide that education, that level of education, and yet maintain strong budgets.
Sure.
So
thank you.
Okay, so there was a motion on the floor. We need to vote for it. Okay. Yes, so call for the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you so much, Mr. Guzman.
Thank you.
The next item is
do we need a motion for that, or are we just as informational for the arts
Prop
and
28.
music funding expenditure plans? Do we
You
need a
to-
motion?
It needs to be approved. Yes.
Okay.
Do you want me to
So
describe real quick?
I'll make a motion to approve the Prop 28 expenditure
You want
plan.
to describe it?
I will second the motion.
Okay.
You want to talk about it?
Motion made by Mr. Margot, seconded by Ms.
So-
Marcus.
So Prop 28 is a new funding source. Oh, here's the. It's a new funding source that was approved by voters, and essentially there's some requirements. One of the requirements is that we present a plan to the board. Real quickly, I'll just say one of the main things is that 80% has to be spent on some sort of salary, and 20% could be spent on other items. And we also have to present a plan to the board. There's no real layout. We have one that we found, that Dustin found, and Mr. Seaman found. And so, but yeah, that's the requirement, and we're presenting that before you today. And one more thing, it's a supplement, not supplant. That's really important. And what does that mean? Supplement means it's supposed to supplement your existing program. It's not supposed to supplant what you're doing in your program. So that's really important to know. You want to?
Yeah, and just for clarification for those that are looking at home, you'll see in each of the plans, we did exactly that. Our allocations, back to second interim report, I always want to bring attention to our expenditure per student looks very high because it's based off our funds. When you look at other school districts, and if we do get into a comparison base, they have access to a lot of other funds that we really don't. So when you look at our Prop 28 plan as an example, we're getting $150,000 for the high school to be able to supplement our already existing programs, such as 80% will go towards staffing and the other 20% will go towards materials, supplies, and professional development. But when I look at my surrounding friends at other school districts, they're getting hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and close to millions of dollars. And so we always have to take that in consideration as well, as we're really footing the bill for each of our students, where we don't really have access to a lot of the external funds that some of our other school districts get to run the programs that we do. So when we're talking about that complete comparison, it is apples to oranges. It really is.
Well, but still, the money that's spent, that they don't include that in the money that they spend then?
Not all of it. So when we actually break down, if we were to look at
You have to take everything and they don't.
Yeah, we would have to look at all the different categorical funds and stuff that each of the students per pupil spending. I mean, I even just did a Google search 15 minutes ago, just in preparation.
Well, I have to do a little research on that.
Yeah. But ultimately, what you guys are approving tonight is just knowing that we have these funds coming in. We waited to bring this to the Board of Education because we were waiting to ensure that we receive said funds. We've been working with Mary Lou, Raphael, and the business department with the principals on looking at already expenditures and then bringing back those funds back to the general fund by being able to cover for some of our staff and stuff. So I will stop talking and just got the mic. And I wanted to.
Okay, so we need to vote on this then, on the property 28. Please, yep.
Go ahead, sorry. No, I was going to say we already made a motion. So
Okay.
So as I look at these supporting documents, they are all going to be according to what we need to do with the plans that are in there for them, right? And this is money that's going to be over and above what we spend already, because, so we're getting, was it $150,000, did you say, for all 5 schools, or just, is it based on proportionately? Or?
Yep, it's based on pupil, so per student calculation. And so you'll see at the high school, they're getting $150,000, but really they're not getting that into their site-based budget. We've already worked on, because we spend above that amount for the visual and performing arts programs that we offer at the high school. It's just going to help supplement some of the funds that we're already expending.
The high school, what about the elementary?
There's 5 plans attached there, so each of them. So Hawthorne has $70,000 and 7483.
The total is like $300K that will get distributed.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
Thank you. That's what I needed to know.
Yeah. An example is like Moreno High School gets $1,000 based off the student enrollment, and we utilize those funds for like our 3D printing and stuff for the students to have that visual and performing arts aspect within the Moreno Continuation School.
But to Dustin's earlier point, they have to be spent that way. You know, we get the money, but it has to be spent a certain way. And so, yeah.
Thank you. Any further discussion or questions? Okay, call for the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Planning and facilities.
I will move for the approval of an agreement with Terra Pave Incorporated for the parking lot repair, much needed, at Beverly Vista Middle School.
I will second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I didn't see much needed in the transmittal there, Rochelle.
Huh? Yeah, I know. I just an aside.
Ad-lib.
As an ad lib, right? I guess you haven't looked at that parking lot lately.
No, I haven't. Biked by it just this afternoon.
Okay. I won't do that anymore then.
I believe it was.
I did.
It was seconded by Mr. Margot.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Okay.
The law firm of Marcus and Margot.
Yeah, that's right.
I'll move for the ratification of amendment to the contract with New Tangram LLC, doing business as Tangram, for furniture, fixtures, and equipment at El Rodeo Elementary School.
All second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. And I do apologize. 14A, we did want to table. We wanted to have Will present. We did not. So at this time, we are.
So I'll just make a motion to table 14A.
I'll second the motion.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Motion carries. We move to 14.
This is a discussion and an approval, so
Right.
I'll move for the approval of draft resolution 2023-2024-12, maintaining safe digital citizenry.
Can I, Ms. Marcus, can we just hold off on the motion because if we have
I want to present it.
if we have any changes, she wants to present. If we have any changes, we're going to have to approve it with the changes.
Okay.
Okay. So backing up a little bit, I did, we as a community, we have been impacted by the activity at the middle school with the AI imagery, and it's been definitely a period of reflection for all of us, young and old. And as we move forward in these times, and we know that this is a larger problem that goes beyond just our district, it goes beyond just our students. This is something that the international community is facing in terms of use and misuse of artificial intelligence, and it's something that will not go away. So to that end, I felt that it would be prudent to create a resolution that is with the motive of maintaining and guiding and teaching our children about safe digital citizenry. And I don't want to read the whole thing to you unless that would be appropriate, but basically I talk about how whereas artificial intelligence, so-called AI, and some of the deep fakes, as they call them, which are phony representations, often offensive, of a person's likeness, are a growing threat to all communities and their youngest citizens. We also know that AI and unregulated online technology and tools pose a special risk to school-age children and adolescents. And when used by perpetrators of all ages, these images can be generated or altered to create content that is harmful. Whereas school districts are required to comply, there's some language in the California Ed Code which mandates that we have preparation and comprehensive school safety plans. And in this day and age, unfortunately, safety is, in my opinion, not just related to our physical safety and soundness in terms of our property, but also our presence online and our students' presence and use of technology. So that does fall under safety. And whereas it is certainly our responsibility and all adult stakeholders at our schools to keep the students, teachers, staff safe from the threat of AI, I think that it's reasonable that we have programs, as I know we do, but to resolve that we continue to guide our students with programs that are available to educate children and teenagers about online safety and citizenry, including how to maintain their privacy and safeguard their online assets. I realize the laws and regulations are evolving to address this new challenge in our society, but we certainly need to be on top of it and understand that there are effective penalties and consequences. And whereas in order to continue with preventative measures to increase school safety, we must act now, I therefore put forth that therefore be it resolved, the board and the superintendent will continue to work with the community, partners, and public and private agencies to guide, educate, and support the district parents and their children of the harms and misuses of AI and related technology. That is the general gist of it. So how should we proceed?
So, and I just want to remind everybody that, we work differently. We don't have the opportunity to do this behind the scenes. So that's why if people will remember from past resolutions, we've been able to make revisions. If they're not too major, we've been able to do that here at a board meeting. I know that you all have it in front of you. So that's certainly up to the board on how they would like to proceed. But in the past, what we've done is if there are some suggestions to some of the language, that we could take those revisions here today. Because just as a reminder, we don't get to do that passing this around behind the scenes. It's part of the board meeting.
Okay, thank you.
So it's a little cumbersome, but.
Right. But I welcome any and all thoughts. I think we all are in agreement, of course, at least at the larger picture, that this is something that we need to, keep on the tip of our tongues. And
Well,
Sophia, any thoughts? Okay.
Just a couple of quick observations is hopefully, like a lot of resolutions, they tend to fall on deaf ears that we make, because resolutions really don't particularly hold any power. They're not law, they're not policy. It's a statement, and people can choose to either listen or not. There's an apathy on these issues, especially after they've been beaten to death in the press and the media lately. I think people are moving on. Once the story becomes blasé, right, the media doesn't care anymore. I would love if we do pass a resolution that it gets sent out to all the media outlets that were just haranguing us during this whole crisis to let, hey, this is what we can do about it, so we did this, right? And note that there's a there's a paragraph in here that talks about laws and regulations, and that's where this all should be kicked up to now, right? This has to be kicked up to city, county, state, and federal lawmakers to be able to address the issue in a practical way and come with a problem. Now, I know that the House in Washington, the House announced that they were forwarding a bill about TikTok and banning TikTok, and that's a first step for a multitude of reasons that the president said that he would sign, that he would support if it did get to his desk. We'll see if they follow through with that, but that's the first in this cry for, hey, we need to regulate some of this. I would say, as far as the wording on this, I don't want to get too deep into the weeds on this because, like I said, I think for the most part it tends to fall on deaf ears, and I don't want to take up all of our time. But the word in the sixth whereas section, we say adult stakeholders. I think you need to define stakeholders, and my understanding is that people don't use the word stakeholders anymore. I use it, but it's community partners or whatever it is. So either whether we write community partners, we should say who that is, because there's not enough mention of parents on this whole. There's only the word parents I caught at the very bottom in the be it resolved section, and I think a lot more of this should be put on parents.
Yeah, that's true.
Right. So
and a lot of this, does happen off of campus outside of school hours.
Right. We don't buy kids phones. We don't pay for their plans.
They're not school issued devices.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think that the parents should really be told, whether you know it or not, you are playing a role in this, right? If you have a minor at home, you are playing a role in this. You didn't sign up for it. You were just trying to get a device for your kids so you can put them on Find Friends and know where they are after school.
That's one
and I
of
get
many
that
reasons,
because, our parents used to say, hey, when you get to your friend's house, call me. And if we didn't call, we get in trouble. That's how we did it. That's how we rolled. So I think nowadays, that's it. But you don't need a smartphone with dangerous apps and technology to be able to keep track of your kids, right? So, I'll always advocate for kids are getting phones way too young, and we'll leave it at that. But I think if we can somehow clarify that stakeholders includes the word parents, community partners includes the word parents, and that the fact that parents should be more responsible in this whole realm.
Yep,
Thanks.
I agree with you. Okay.
Thank you for your time in preparing this.
Absolutely.
I agree with the comments that have been said. I think that there also needs to be a component about the social media when we're talking about safe digital citizenry. The creation of the AI images is maybe not the worst piece of the puzzle of what happened in our school district to me. It's the disseminating it on social media and taking it from outside of, one student's brain, which may or may not be developmentally appropriate, what they're thinking about and what's on their mind. It's sharing it and trying to use it as a tool. And so I just would be interested if you could, mention the social media component to it, since we're on the topic of safe digital citizenry.
Right, and citizenry also includes civil, courteous, reasonable, decent behavior online.
Yeah.
And it's new because we, for the most part, born in the 70s, 80s, or before, we know conduct in the real world. But there's a lot of young people who spend a good amount of time in their social life and their cognitive life and their academic life online. So there's like a whole new code and a whole new set of citizenry and ethics and civics that hasn't been written yet.
Yeah.
And that's why this is like a start to say, hey, we got to look at this. So you're saying, to your point, Judy, that social media as a whole and how we
use it,
the behavior
or misuse it,
actual behavior,
to demean,
right,
degrade,
cannot be
exactly, etc.
Right.
I know
right.
you'll be able to
flesh that out.
Words.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, and then just from just looking at the document, it looks fine. But in resolutions, I just want to be sure that after whereas, comma, let's just be consistent. So if the first word is going to be lowercase or uppercase, so like in the first line, school safety is lowercase, but then in artificial intelligence, we go to the uppercase. It doesn't matter to me.
No, you're absolutely right, though.
Just so long as there's the consistency. And then also at the end of each whereas, like on the first one, we've got a semicolon, and then it's inconsistent what we're doing throughout. Some have nothing at the end, and some have semicolons or periods.
Yeah, and I
So-
was going to look back at like our anti-Semitism
Yes.
resolution and sort of use that as a
Yeah.
template for some of the mechanics that I must have missed in sixth
Yeah,
grade.
that's
But-
okay.
Okay.
It's because I do these all day anyways
No, I
for work, so that's
you're
why.
a lady who knows her
Yeah.
whereases and her
I-
shalls and her.
I don't blame you at all, yeah. Like you could just keep your semicolons all the way throughout, and then after the last one where it's must act now, you could put an and after, and then the therefore be it resolved.
Okay, makes sense.
Otherwise, thank you for your time, and also for putting into words my comment about the social media piece.
Sure.
Thank you.
Miss Marcus?
Well, I want to thank you again for bringing this out in the resolution. I personally would love to spend a little more time at home going through it, because I think that to see this firsthand, I didn't spend a lot of time on this, but didn't.
Me neither, yeah.
And I would love to be able to refine some of the sentences and so on. I think there's a better way, a more simple way of saying some of these things. For example, laws and regulations must evolve to address. I mean, we can't, they need to, but
It's
there
not
must
our
be
power to do that. Yeah.
I'm thinking that there's things in here that we have no control.
We encourage lawmakers.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
probably
something like
that.
that.
was
I mean,
the sentiment.
I love what you're doing, and I think it's
Yeah.
great, but I think we need to look at each particular whereas to make sure that that's what we really want to say.
So-
And that's the only reason
Refining it.
I would like to see it refined a little bit, and that we get it ahead of time so that we can, and I think it'll be much easier to pass
I
at that
think
time.
maybe to solve this quickly tonight,
Yeah.
before our next meeting,
Yeah.
carve out half an hour of just a study session on
Sure.
this, so we can
Put it back on and vote.
do it correctly,
Okay,
do it in open, and then put it, and then it'll be on that later agenda to approve.
it's fine with me. That's
Okay.
great. But
Thank you. Thank you again for this.
Thank you for
We'll
being
get there.
receptive and looking at this.
Just as a suggestion, though, because we can certainly do that with the study session. If you do have some thoughts, if this is fresh in your head over the next couple of days, if you send me your feedback, I wrote down some notes. I know that
Yeah,
Dr. Stern
that's
did
it.
as well. So we'll make sure those get in there. But if there is something else,
Before you see it.
just send it to me if you don't mind, and then I'll make sure that gets incorporated in.
I will look
To the
at it.
resolution.
We can
Great.
also do it in the next board meeting, as long as, if everybody's going to send the notes directly to you
Mm-hmm.
and not to each other and not
Right.
discuss it, that's fine. We don't have to have
Yep.
a study session, but I think if working solo on committee, we're not really going to get it done. We need to, everybody can read it, make their notes, send them to you, then we can come together and synthesize it.
I think that, Mr. Margot, that's a great suggestion. Like, let us get that feedback and some of the notes that you have. If it's really easy and we can insert and make these revisions quite easily, I don't think we need it.
Good.
But if we collaborate and find that, that it doesn't look like this aligns, then we'll definitely do that.
Okay.
Okay, thank you for being receptive, everyone.
Did you use AI to write this resolution?
I used Chat GPT. I said, lying back on my couch,
want
I
me to read
said,
the next
How do
one?
we know that you didn't use AI to write this? That's
how do
the
you know
question.
I'm not sitting here as a 3D printed board member?
Listen, I'm either a hologram or my own twin brother.
I have a twin also, so there you have it.
No, you'll never know. None of you will know.
But she wouldn't be on the school board. She's not interested. But I love her.
I will
Okay.
make a motion to approve the first reading of the revised bylaws 9100B, organization 9124B, attorney 9220, governing board elections 9223B, filling vacancies, how appropriate, 9270, oops, I shouldn't say that, conflict of interest 9320B, meetings and notices 9322B, agenda meeting materials, and 9323B, meeting conduct.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, motion made by Miss Marcus and seconded by Mr. Margot. All in favor?
I
Aye.
voted that. I had a question.
Okay, question, sorry,
I wanted
discussion
to make
question.
a comment. And I guess it still passed, because you had enough eyes, but I don't know. I just had a comment that we have been working on revising these bylaws for a long time. We are at the end of the road on these bylaw and policy revisions, and I just wanted the timing of the fact that we had an election and may soon require the filling of a vacancy, and the fact that filling vacancies is on this policy is a complete coincidence. These policies were under review long before the election, and I don't want anybody to think that the board is doing anything bizarre, strange, or whatever. And by the way, the policy that we are addressing is really Ed Code.
Right.
Anyway, that we are revising based on Ed Code, so it's nothing that the district is doing per se to adapt to the recent circumstance that we may find ourselves in.
That's
So I
exactly
just
right.
wanted that on the record.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you. In regard to 9100B, I just had a couple of comments for everybody's consideration. So, and sorry, I'm looking on my phone because I think I handed my handwritten comments back to with all the closed session items earlier. But in subsection 6, which starts with review and or consider resources.
Which was the policy again? I'm sorry, Mrs. Manicherry.
Sure, 9100B.
Okay.
Thank you. Let me know when you're there.
Yep.
Okay. For the halfway down, item 6.
Yes.
So regarding the resources, do we want to put in the board governance handbook as one of the resources?
Well, governance standards are in there. Wouldn't the handbook be part of the governance standards?
That's true.
Yes, but we could also make that clear too, since we have that
You can
document.
put a parenthetical, like which includes, by way of example, the board governance handbook, just because we spent time on it, and I think it's really practical.
I mean, yeah, because that's really what that is, clarifying the board's governance and leadership role. But we can.
I don't think you have to put parentheses. Just put it in there. As
Yeah.
its own item.
I agree. I think
Fine.
That's what I was saying.
Yeah. It's a first reading, so we can make the correction, bring it back. And
Yes.
Second
Okay.
reading.
Great.
Okay. Then, so under election of officers, we have this concept of clerk. I just want to make sure that being a clerk is not going to be interpreted as somebody's got to be a clerk before they can be the president. But it says, after serving 1 year as clerk/vice president, the elected member shall serve 1 year as president of the board. I know that we 6 sitting here are on the same page, but I just worry that it could cause confusion for a group that is not.
Which one are you on? I just want to pull up the correct language.
It's 9100-B, organization.
Oh, still the top one. Okay.
Yeah.
Let me see where that is.
Which one is it?
Okay.
Under the section that says election of officers. I'll read it to you guys.
It says consolidation of elections.
The board shall each year elect one of its members to be vice president and one of its members to be clerk. And then there's 2 periods there. So we can take one out. Selection of the vice president, which is now capitalized. So is it capitalized or not capitalized? Shall be determined by rotation based on how long each member has served on the board during their current term on the board. I think we could take out on the board. But that's fine if you want to leave it. If 2 or more, is it board members, have the same term of service, then they shall serve as vice president in descending order of the number of votes received in their most recent election, and for this purpose an appointed member shall be treated as having 0 votes. Okay. Immediately after serving as vice president, which is lowercase here, the elected office. Do you mean the elected officer?
The elected member.
Okay. The elected member
during the current term.
Which one are you reading?
No, the elected member shall serve 1 year as president of the board.
So serving as vice president,
Skip the line.
then the elected member shall serve 1 year as president.
Okay, so I'll immediately after serving as vice president, the elected member shall serve 1 year as president of the board.
Mm-hmm.
This member shall be one who previously has not served in office during the current term, unless all the board's members have previously served in office. I think we need a parenthetical excluding an appointed member. Yeah?
Unless all the board's elected members.
I could be wrong. So I'll leave you there.
I see what you're saying.
You see, okay?
Yes.
Then this is the line that actually triggered me a little to be confused. After serving 1 year as clerk / vice president, I think clerk comes out here.
I think we already said this. I think this is repetitive because it said immediately after serving as vice president, the elected member shall serve 1 year as president.
Yeah,
And
so
say it again. I don't think we need that last line.
I agree.
And clerk has nothing to do with the succession, so.
I agree.
Well, in the last 2 years, of course, you know, we did, both Mary and you, Noah, moved from from president to clerk. And that was just something that we automatically sort of did.
So it actually it's the opposite.
Right.
But the way that we've been doing it is that the president who has more experience under their belt at that point goes into the clerk position rather than it be clerk, vice president, president.
Well, this all came up originally because I believe at the time, Dr. Briggy, you were serving as the clerk.
Right.
And we said that you were also the secretary, and there was a confusion as to whether you should be
Correct.
both. So we nominated Mary as the clerk when she left the presidency, so she still had a title.
Yeah.
And the same is true of Noah. He left after his presidency and became the clerk. I'm not saying that if that's what we want to do, I'm just saying that that's when it started.
Yeah, so our practice has been that clerk has been following the presidency, whereas this could be interpreted that clerk precedes the presidency.
Right.
I think that it also works in the opposite direction, because if somebody is in their term as a president as their last term, then they wouldn't ever become the clerk.
Which I think might be me, for example.
Which it may be that we don't need anything about the clerk, about, you know, just that we have to elect a clerk. And that's just our practice could be that if the president is in their third year and they're going to be in a fourth year, the president can be offered the clerk position. That would just be practice. That doesn't have to be
And
policy.
it wouldn't matter if somebody's in their first year or second.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
We
so
can
the
make
last sentence goes.
Yeah, I would take the last sentence out.
I think so too.
I agree.
That'll clean it up.
Okay.
All right.
All right, so discussion's over. We vote on all these.
So we're voting on just 9100.
So he could bring it back with the changes for the second reading.
Right.
Okay, so no further action on
Okay.
15A.
I don't think we should take
I-
any action on any of 99,000.
I had a couple more comments. Not about 9100. Okay, so in regards to 9124-B attorney,
Mm-hmm.
So under retaining legal counsel, excuse me, when the district is seeking legal advice or representation, the superintendent or designee shall initiate a request for proposals, RFP, to advertise.
It's all struck. It goes down to identify.
Yes, I know that it's struck, but I'm wondering, as we are growing into becoming a best practices school district, that we might consider maintaining
If these are ed code, though, if these are ed code, we can't do it.
I don't think it's
This
ed
is not.
code.
This is a recommendation from CSBA.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is what I'm asking us. When we are seeking counsel,
would it not be a good idea to go out and seek a couple counsel and then make a determination? I truly believe that is a best practices approach. Sometimes you don't even know what you don't even know.
That's what we do, though. So I'm wondering why the language doesn't reflect it, because in the following green paragraph, the district may but is not required to initiate an RFP, whereas before we initiated an RFP right off the bat. So I'm wondering, CSBA is saying may. That's their change, right? From our original. Because according to the red with the strike through, it goes to more what Judy is saying. So I think we could just, sorry, this is off, sorry. I think we could just take the may out, right? The may is not required to, just initiate a request for proposals, right?
Yeah, so the shall is there, but then it jumps down.
Right.
It could work in a couple ways. Like it could be when the district is seeking legal counsel or representation, the superintendent or designee shall identify prospective attorneys, firms, and or legal services entities, and thereafter initiate a request
yes.
for, you know.
I'm fine with that.
Okay.
I'm fine with that change. Because Judy, like I said, we have never secured counsel without going out for an RFP for counsel.
And
So-
we might be in a moment in time where other people need this direction, you know, and it's working for us, and we do it in our construction. We do it. You know what I'm saying? And so that's my question. Number one. Next, for the next paragraph, under retaining legal counsel, the second paragraph, the board and superintendent shall annually evaluate the performance of firm and or attorneys, etc. So I know that it takes more work and I know that it takes time, but I do think that there is a value in reflecting on our counsel, just like we evaluate a lot of, you know, our staff, cabinet, superintendent, ourselves, you know, and so I would be interested in evaluating our counsel because they kind of become like an in-house counsel for us. We work with them so much.
Well, it is in there. I mean, you're just advocating for the language?
Well, it's being deleted.
Well, it's reprinted below in the CSBA. The board and superintendent shall periodically evaluate the performance. I think it replaced annually with periodically, but it's the same direction.
So it's there.
It's there, yeah. But do we want, you know, I think periodically doesn't hold the boards, you know, to a specific time frame.
Yeah.
But I do like the idea of the language being in there that we should treat that with an evaluation.
Yeah. Like everybody else that we're working
Right.
with ourselves, you know.
So maybe even just changing may to will.
Shall, and instead of periodically, annually.
Yeah, we could take out periodically. I don't want a time frame in there. I think it's just a year goes by like this,
Yes.
and all of a sudden we haven't upheld our policy because we're a week late.
Sure.
No, I think I think if we say shall evaluate, then we have to evaluate at some point, but it doesn't say when.
Okay. I mean, in
I
which
like
case.
the fact that without the word periodically.
Okay. So strike periodically.
Okay. Okay. Great.
Thank
There we
you.
go. So then on 9322-B,
9223-B.
yeah, the one it's about agenda meeting and
Oh.
materials.
92 what?
9322.
9322.
9322.
So I just want to bring up the first paragraph about any board member or member of the public may request that a matter within the jurisdiction of the board be placed on the agenda of a regular meeting. No problem there. The request shall be submitted in writing to the superintendent or designee with supporting documents and information. Are we okay with supporting documents and information? Okay. Then do we want to keep the next sentence that's been stricken? Okay, if any, at least 1 week before the scheduled meeting date,
or if submitted less than a week before the scheduled meeting date, may be postponed to a later meeting in order to allow sufficient time for consideration and research. Does this tie our hands? This is in the context that one of us would want to add something to an agenda, right? I just want to make sure I understand.
It's also members of the public.
Both.
Yeah. It's everybody.
Yes.
So I'm thinking about it as a board member. Let's say it's Wednesday before a Tuesday meeting. I guess the 1 week being stricken is a good idea so that things can come on faster.
I like that the time frame has been taken out because
Mhm.
it allows flexibility.
Yeah.
If you submit something within time and the superintendent and board president feel it an apropos time, they can put it on. You know, if they say, you know what, we have a packed agenda, we're going to do it at the next meeting. You know, and they gives them the leeway to do that, so it's not tied into a week a time frame. So,
Okay.
And the practice usually has been whenever a request is made from a board member, because it's rarely ever made from a community member,
Mhm.
but it's usually the next meeting or the second meeting after that. It always gets placed on. Like there's no,
Okay.
I've never felt that there was any,
Right.
animosity about putting stuff on. They do it. If they can do it, they do it. So.
Okay. Okay. Then.
Like when I put something on
Yeah.
the agenda and then it got postponed today.
Then the paragraph, fourth down, the board president and superintendent shall also decide whether an agenda item is appropriate for discussion in open or closed. So I don't have a problem with that in theory, but isn't that governed by something else so that it does? I just don't want it to be discretionary. Does that make sense? So
Which line are you on for that?
The board president and superintendent shall also decide whether an agenda item is appropriate.
Oh, I see.
for
It's a couple
discussion.
down. Okay.
And then the next line is a little confusing too, whether the item should be an action item. I guess that makes sense, subject to board approval.
Yeah, and this
Yeah.
this actually happens
Yeah.
like every meeting.
Yeah.
Where we sit and we look and we say this is, you know,
Yeah.
a personnel matter or this is
Yeah, okay. Okay, so we're okay there. Okay, just one thing is also on, we talked about a 9 p.m. end time. And it says, remember we talked about it last week? I'm sorry, I cut it off so I don't remember which policy it's on, but we were debating between 10:30 and 9 o'clock.
it's on 9323B,
Yes.
meeting conduct.
I thought it was because we actually start earlier, so our hope was to end by 9 since we start at 4. I don't have a problem because if there's more to talk about, I'm okay to be here for as long as it takes, you know. If we have 100 people here wanting to speak, then I want to hear them all. But I'm just making note that we as a group discussed a 9 p.m. time.
I actually think that, in my opinion, less is more. I think that if we try to be efficient and we know that we have, 5 hours of a meeting, even if we have many more energy stores to go
Mhm.
until 11 or 12, I think that it forces us to be more efficient. And I think that 5 hours, if we can't accomplish the business of the people in 5 hours, there's something wrong. Someone's going on too long, or we are not being linear in our thinking. So
we can always vote to extend the meeting. So
Yeah.
you always have an out.
Yeah.
So if it
That's
happens
right.
to be,
That's what it is.
if we know we have a packed agenda and yet we have 2 hours of public comment, which, by the way, board president does not have to entertain that much. You're allowed to cut that off at a certain time if you so desire.
Mhm.
But if we do, and then we know we're going to run past 9 o'clock, the board says, at any point we could say we need a vote to extend the meeting
Right.
until 10.
That's in there now
Boom.
that we
Done.
can
Yeah,
extend
we
it.
could,
It
yeah,
is.
you're
okay.
fine.
So then, right, because there could be an urgent matter that we absolutely have to, go
So-
past 9. I
So
think
right now it goes till 10:30.
I thought we changed that.
We talked about changing it. I just want to make sure it's making its way in.
Personally.
Yeah, this is just more of a correction here. So
Okay.
Okay, so maybe this was an old paper. So, or maybe you have the update.
23.
Okay, so it's changed on 9323. It's green now.
It's by 9 o'clock.
So by
Okay.
9 o'clock.
So
and
it's a
then
correction.
We can
Great.
decide to make
The only way
a.
I couldn't make the 10 red, but the old 9 was red, but it's a new green 9.
Thank you.
You don't even want to know
Okay.
how
I
I
can
know.
imagine.
I know.
assembly.
Okay, that's it, guys. Thank you.
Okay.
9.
All right. So
We're gonna table that then till the next
We're-
meeting.
we're going to table 15A.
What was that, Mrs. Marcus? Sorry. Drifted off for a minute.
We have, it's a first reading.
It's 9 o'clock still in my head.
Guys, it's a first reading. We can approve the first reading with the changes discussed, and then it comes back with all of like Judy's changes.
Okay.
And
Which
what,
is-
what was your point though, Mrs. Marcus? For which one?
What were you asking?
I had read, I'm saying that we're going to take this, we're not going to,
We won't
approved
approve
the first reading,
15A.
Right.
So it doesn't matter.
You do approve the first reading.
Yeah, so it doesn't matter.
Yep.
Okay. Thank
Right.
you for your time.
Okay. So now we move on to
We need a vote.
for 15A.
We need a vote for for 15A.
Okay. All in favor?
We're gonna make actually, I'm sorry, because we pulled. Did we have a motion on this already, or did we stop that? We did. Okay, I'm sorry.
Okay.
So, yeah, that's fine. Okay.
We didn't have a first reading on the first reading, just now at 4,000, are you talking about 4,000?
No, we're doing 15A. Go ahead.
So we had a motion, and did we have a second?
Yes.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, so that will come back with the changes for the second reading.
Okay.
Yes, along with your El Rodeo fencing item.
Oh, yes. Okay. So 15B.
I am talking about, an epee fencing, by the way. You guys didn't get that.
No, I didn't get that. Now I did.
Can we? I'm going to take a shot here. I'd like to make a motion to waive the first reading and go to a second reading. Approve the second reading of the 4,000s.
I'll second. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Margot. I was actually going to recommend that. I would just say, with the exception of number 4236, which is non-school employment, that's one of the ones we talked about. So with that exception, I would say I would recommend waiving that first to a second.
And I will make an amendment to approve the first reading of the 4,000s. Sorry, to waive the first reading of the 4,000s except for item 4236, and approve the second reading of the items of the 4,000s except for 4236.
Who made the second?
I'll second.
No, whoever made the second.
Yeah.
Do you concur?
I concur.
Thank you.
So we vote.
Good.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Brings us to communication.
So can I just, Dr. Horvath, are we going to get 4236 back to us as a first reading? Okay, thanks.
Okay, almost done here. Communication from the board members. Go around. Sophia.
Okay. Yeah. First of all, I wanted to wish everyone in the community a happy Women's History Month and belated International Women's Day. I think sometimes it feels like every day in this district is International Women's Day, which is awesome. And super proud of that one. And then, like, right off the heels of Black History Month, we have, led by our crew club at school, a great program. Sorry, I was not talking to the mic. A great program of women's history-related events lined up and curriculum. So that you'll be seeing that in my coming reports. So very excited about that. And then last week was Super Tuesday, and we had a local election. And I wanted to congratulate a couple of the students actually at school, first of all, who both served as student election workers and voted for the first time. I think that it's a great aspect of civic education and duty, and a great accomplishment in setting them up for awesome things in the future. So just wanted to highlight some of our awesome student election workers. And then also, as I'm sure we all know, our colleague Mrs. Wells had an election also on Super Tuesday, and so I wanted to offer my early congratulations to her from afar on her victory, and bittersweetly, say I'm very excited for her to be joining city council. So yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Margot.
I really don't have anything except for I know Dr. Breggy mentioned the bedtime stories at Horseman that they had, which Claudette Robinson read at, and I ran over there to attend it. And I think one of the most adorable things they did is the opening acts were little first graders who read their favorite books to all the students in attendance, and it was well attended too with students and parents. And it was just I forget that I'm listening to a first grader read, and we kind of think about our education and skill level in the district, and that was impressive to me. That's where I think, that represents Beverly Hills as a first grader reading a book to a bunch of kids that were older and younger than they were, but doing it nonetheless. And I was proud of the kids and enjoyed that event. And looking forward to Career Day tomorrow. Be lots of fun. It's always fun.
Are you speaking?
I think I am. Be my last one as an elected official. No, but as an elected official. If I come back in the future, it's just going to be as a hack. So
a hack.
Okay. Just a street sweeper at that point. Professional hater.
Okay, Ms. Manishari.
Thank you so much. Not too much to report, but I will be here tomorrow, I think, before 8:30 for the Career Day. I'm excited for it and looking to see everyone there.
You speaking also?
I'm not speaking because I have a work commitment, so I'm just going to stop in the morning and then check out.
Okay.
Okay.
A couple things of interest this week. In the last 2 weeks, I attended the Finance Committee meeting, and of course, you heard the report that they got on the OPEB, so I'm not going to go over that. I also attended the CBOC. They discussed the performance audit, and they were really quite satisfied that things have been turned around, although there's still a couple items that are open. They really went through it, and they did a good job. And they also heard from, at the Finance Committee, we heard from Sandy Sosi about the problems with the computers and replacing them and so on, and I just wanted to mention that. Last night, Dustin and I attended the Carnegie Mellon presentation called Carnegie Learner, and it was really a lovely event. I got to go because both of my colleagues here let me go, so thank you. It dealt mostly with the subject of literature. It was mostly on literature. They talked about some of the problems that prevent us from progressing with literature, like some of the elimination of accessibility to the materials, building the foundations, and a background knowledge. But the whole basis was to continue to approach writing. They were very, very strong with writing. And they say that their program aligns 100% with the LCAP, and it provides a proficiency and an excellence, and it gets better attendance with some of their comments. They reach out to those performing below grade level, and they try to bring them up to grade level. The program provides 60 minutes of grade level instruction and task and appropriate materials, and apply the constructions and the differentiation of teaching and improving the curriculum. So they have a rich curriculum. As a result of hearing all this, I, of course, said, well, where's the math program? And so I approached, and Mr. Stevens said the same thing, and we became interested in the math program, and they said that the math program has been in existence for 15, 20 years, and we asked that they send us some materials, and so we are going to be receiving the materials of the Carnegie Learning Math Program. So that was something that I really enjoyed, and I took notes. So, but I would like to share something. I had it on my phone, and I had been trying to keep it up, but I don't know how to do that. Recently, I lost, as a result of a painful incident in my family. It got me to connect with a lot of people in my family that I had not heard from or seen in many years. And one of the people that I connected with was a young man not a young man now, he's 73 years old. And he's my cousin. His name is Marshall Fine. And we've got such a small world of people that we know together. And I was telling him that I came home the other day, and he sent me a book that he wrote about Sam Peckinpah. I don't know if any of you have heard of him, but he was a very famous movie director back in the days, and he happened to produce a movie with my son's best friend father. So this has gotten very convoluted, but I was telling him about, and he was asking about the AI incident, and we were discussing it, and it was interesting that he was reading about, and these are just some of his thoughts. I was reading about someone's plan to remake Lawrence Kasdan's film Body Heat. Now, I don't know how many people, I never saw it, I don't know about it, which I considered perfect as it was. As a critic, I always disapprove of sequels and remakes because they seem to be evidence of a lack of imagination. The arrival of AI further confirms this. It was quite a strong statement, and I was really, and he was a critic for movies and films and plays and so on for Gannett News many, many years ago. But here's a man in his 73 who's talking about what AI prevents us from being, and that is creative. So I would like to just share that with you. And that concludes my report. I'm sorry I was so long.
Thank you, Rochelle.
Thank you, Rochelle. I have no board member comments.
I just,
Mr.
once
Barber
again,
wants-
because it's Women's Month, I just wanted to wish a happy birthday to both my sister-in-law and my sister, who both have birthdays in the next couple of days.
Okay, thank
I
you.
never get to do that. I'm doing it.
Okay. And with that, I'm going to adjourn the meeting. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.